won't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. I will not submit to authoritative man. I'm ready to die, but not for love. See the signs appear. It's gonna happen here.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the entire state of Arkansas. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia, the most knowledgeable in Florida now. Danielle, getting there. Danielle Alexandre, how are you doing, Danielle?
I'm doing well. I'm still a little trying to mash my head around all of the legislation that is regarding education and Common Core this year. But, I think by the end, I should have earned a doctorate degree.
And that's the way it was.
So I do have to say that, I graduated college with honors. I had Greek. And I didn't have to study as much then as I have had to look through all this legislation to understand it. So
she's going to have a master's education.
Yeah, exactly.
She's going to have a master's in bad education.
But I think that when you have 13 chapters of statutes on any one subject, you can honestly say government has grown too big.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I would be forced to agree with that. So I will do that.
Is there a law?
It's a law.
Is there a gun?
It's somewhere hidden in the 13 chapters.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there that I have to agree with that. So I will go with that now, though. Also in studio is a gentleman that is the Prime Minister of all things that are sinister. His name is How are you doing, studio, Greg?
Yeah, actually, my brother's in studio with today. Chris,
say hi.
Hello.
There you go. Hopefully everybody's doing well. We had a week that I would put in the category of a close to a BDE.
We had a couple
BW. I'm sorry, it's a BWE.
a BWE.
Yeah. You know what that means?
No.
Best week ever.
Oh, best week ever.
So
Okay.
when we're up in Tallahassee and me and John will come back and Alex will say, so how was it? And we'll go, it was a BDE. It was the best day ever. Meaning everything that we needed to do just kind of fell into place and went even we expected when we walked in there. So we'll say, we had a BDE.
Okay.
Alex had a BWE.
Oh.
Yes. And I will tell you why.
Where'd you eat?
Well, at Andrews.
You got to eat at Andrews and Harry's this week.
Yes, that's true. All right, so here's what happened. Let me tell you why. Let me give everybody a little bit of a story. This is not necessarily news as much as it is a story. Everybody is probably...
I think you need to tell it in the theme of a fairy tale.
I do not have the energy to do that this morning. I apologize. I wish I did because I'd like to
Listen,
do that.
I don't ever want to hear you guys force me to do it that way. When the one time you tell a story and I do that to you, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm too tired. You know what? We're all tired. But I have to do the fairy tales and you're kind of getting your way out of it. That's not right.
Story time with Alex Snitker.
All right, let me tell everybody a little story.
It has to start out with Once Upon a Time.
Once upon a time, there was this solar initiative that was being put on by the good people, started by the good Constable Perfetti. And what he did was he went around to the entire country, or around to the entire state, and started talking with around there to get all involved in the solar. I can't do it. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, just go ahead.
I tried for a second. I'm too tired.
You did.
It requires the thought process that I'm not able to have right now.
The college try.
Yes. So what happened is that there is this ballot initiative called for solar energy, and what it does.
It's from the group Floridians for Solar Choice. I'm gonna help you out here.
From the group for Floridians for Solar Choice. Now, there's a lot of other organizations that got together to all support this ballot initiative, and it goes all the Florida Retail Federation, to the Libertarian Party, to Conservatives for Energy Freedom, to the Christian Coalition, to the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, other environmental groups, a huge of people.
The Republican Liberty Caucus.
Yeah, the Republican Liberty Caucus.
I think they're even talking to like the League of Women Voters. I mean, there's other
Tea
people.
Party Network.
There's huge groups coming in, and they're from every ideology. Like, you know, if you were to look at the members of each of these groups, you have Green Party and Libertarian Party and, you know, Republicans and Democrats, and all of these people have come together to agree on one initiative.
Yes. Now, the initiative in and of itself, it allows for users, end users, customers to be able to start generating solar energy and then selling that solar energy to other people. And then it also allows for third-party leasing, which it means that you can have that put on your roof and not have to pay all the upfront costs that are associated with putting solar panels on your roof, because the upfront costs can be a little bit expensive. That's all really at the end of the day that the initiative does. It doesn't really do anything more than that, which is why you got all of these different groups to agree on it, because all the different groups feel the same way, that it is a free market solution. It does allow for choice in the marketplace, and it does help eliminate a government-sponsored monopoly that the electric companies currently have. Now, the groups all got together based off of this one initiative. They also don't agree on a bunch of other stuff. So
Almost anything else.
Yeah, almost anything else. You couldn't get a round of agreement on anything else with these groups other than this, which is a good thing.
And I do have to say, after their initial press conference, everyone met for lunch in this big room at the Retail Federation. They have this big conference room. Everybody meets for lunch. And they were all very careful to only talk about the solar ballot initiative, because when even another subject came up, you could see faces kind of cringe. Didn't agree on anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have a topic in this group.
Right.
No. And again, the way it should be. Everybody found an agreement, and that's what you do, is you focus on the agreement, which is a good thing. So things are going along pretty fine. They got the 100,000 signatures. They turned them in. They're waiting to get the signatures counted before it goes to the Supreme Court in order to move forward. Because the way ballot initiatives work is you get so many of them, then the wording goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court for Florida makes a determination on the wording, and then ballot initiative either continues or it's killed from there. Now, I don't think that the Supreme Court wording, because they did a pretty good job of making sure that they had everything written there the way it should be written there. But then comes in AFP. Now, I imagine a lot of people are asking, well, if this is a free market solution, and it sounds like that's what's going on, then you should have AFP on board. And you would think so. Unless you know AFP. Now, if you go back and listen to some of our shows in the past, Adrian actually put up one of the shows in particular that we talked about this in. He posted it up this week sometime. You would know why. But to give you the short answer to it is that AFP doesn't like solar because the Koch brothers don't like solar.
They're heavily invested in coal energy.
Yeah, and coal and natural gas. And what their argument is that solar won't work. It's not profitable. It won't work comparative to the marketplace, is what their argument is. They're wrong, but that's what their argument would be. So what AFP did is that earlier in the week, last week, they had a one-page or two-page. Was it one page?
It was 2 pages.
2 page. A 2-page basically memo that didn't have their name on it, but I got it. I saw it coming from email addresses that are attached to AFP, and the title of the document that they were sending out was AFP Solar Initiative or whatever. Had their name in it, so it was their stuff.
In the subject line of their email, but not on the papers themselves.
Yeah, on the document itself, on the electronic PDF, the title of that PDF said AFP in it.
Right, but if you open the document, it doesn't have the words AFP.
Correct. So what they did was systematically call everybody every organizational leader in the state that they thought that they had influence over, that they had the contact information for. And they sent this message to all of their regional people, who went to all of the local groups, and all started making calls on exactly the same day. Their goal with making these calls was to get as many people that they had influence over to get away from the ballot initiative, and to get them to come to a press conference that they were telling them that they were holding up here in Tallahassee. And at the time, the press conference was about the solar initiative. It was about the ballot, about the ballot initiative.
And they were telling people that.
Yeah, they were saying, "Come on up, help us out, stand with us." As we have this press conference to go about the solar initiative. Sorry, I had to keep drinking.
They'll drive you to drinking.
Now, as soon as that started happening and they started going out there making those phone calls, I started getting phone calls. Lots of phone calls. And and I knew where they were calling, because as soon as they would talk to them, they would call me and say, "Hey, Alex, what's going on with this?" And people were starting to get nervous. People were like, "Well, what's AFP doing? Are we sure we signed on to the right thing?" People were a little hesitant, a little nervous, and rightly so. Look, you wouldn't think AFP would be so much adamantly against this, and they did such a job of getting to everyone, because all those people are paid. But they got a really good ability to get to everybody, and that's what they did. They went out systematically to a group that they had a phone number for, to tell them, one, we don't like the ballot initiative and you shouldn't like it either, and two, on Tuesday to now. There's a lot of things that you can call people names on, and their reactions to them are different than other names that. So I'm going to say that there's 3 levels of what you would call somebody a name as. You got your one level that's like, your mom wears combat boots or something like that, and it's not really, it's kind of more of fun.
You're a duty head.
Yeah, duty head. The second one is one that's like, put some bad names in there.
Maybe a little curse word in there.
Yeah, maybe a little curse word in there. And then there's number 3, the third level. Now, inside the third level is, you called somebody racist. You called them another bad name, but mixed in with that with libertarians.
It's highly offensive.
It's highly offensive. There's another name that's mixed in there with libertarians, and that would be that you support subsidies. Because if you're going to tell me that I support subsidies, then you might as well just be calling me racist. So, in some of the calls that AFP made, AFP told the people that were on the other line that libertarians support subsidies. And they were attacking the Libertarian Party. They were attacking libertarianism in and of itself. Now, when I heard about this, I was told about this one as well, because that person told us that that's what they said. At that point, I had to make a phone call. And I called and talked to the head of AFP here in Florida.
Chris Hudson.
And I
Who
said,
is Representative Matt Hudson's son.
yes. So I called him up, and I'm like, "Hey, my name is Alex Snicker. I'm vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Florida. I'm under the understanding that you're calling people, telling them that libertarians support subsidies." He's like, "Well, you do." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Well, you support the ballot initiative." And I'm like, "Well, the ballot initiative doesn't support subsidies." "Well, I'm like, "No, there's nothing written in there." We continue to have a conversation that goes back and forth for about 15 minutes. And in this conversation, I was like, "Look, man, you guys are just wrong on this initiative, man. You're just wrong." And he was, again, he was going back and forth. And what he did, the first thing that he did was he said, "Well, I have to have this conversation with the policy people about this. I'm not policy. I'm going with the political thing." So I argued with him about it politically. Now, I was not mean, because at the time I was like, "Look, I'm going to agree to meet with you guys before you have this press conference, because I want you to have every opportunity to not do what you're going to do. Because it's not going to go fun, and it's not going to be pretty, and it's going to be a war." So we go back and forth, and I'm like, "Look, I'll schedule a time to meet with you." So he's like, "Well, I'm a policy person." Okay, yeah, I'll skip to this part. So finally, back from it's a woman up there, and she says, "Well, we have Wednesday available from 2 to 5, basically. So what time would you like to do it? And I'm like, all right, 2 o'clock will work out well. And she's like, okay, well, it'll be policy people from national, from the state, her, Hudson, basically a whole bunch of people against.
They didn't bring enough guys.
No, they didn't have enough. And they knew they didn't have enough because at 5 o'clock that same day, they called back and said, well, we just figured we're really busy. We're not going to be able to meet with you. So they canceled the meeting.
This was not this week. This was last week.
This was last week. What we'll do is we'll reschedule it for Wednesday the following week
After the
press conference. And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. But realizing that we're not going to meet now at this point.
Right.
So we put out, now this is where we had,
Well-
this is what we had, well, go ahead.
And I'll tell this part of the story because for the Liberty First Network, the Liberty First Network does not get involved with ballot initiatives whatsoever. Nothing that's going to be on your ballot. We don't get involved. We don't support, endorse, oppose. It doesn't matter. We don't get involved. But a lot of our network partners, because we build a network across the state of all these groups, had signed on to the ballot initiative, and they had been asking me not to support or endorse it, but to analyze it like I would any other legislation, because that's what I do. I analyze all the legislation for our group. So they asked me to analyze the ballot initiative compared to what the points that have been put out by AFP were.
Yeah. So the weekend was spent, at least some of the weekend was spent, because some of the different people that are supporting of the ballot initiative needed to understand fully exactly what was going on. Like they had to be able to look at the AFP document that was being sent out and to be able to counter that document in an intelligent way. And so what Danielle did was she did an analysis based off of the wording of the bill or of the legislation or the ballot initiative against the talking points message that AFP has put out.
And I didn't do this to give any of our groups ammunition against AFP. I took a very objective look over, is this true or is this not? Because that's what I was. When I was asked to look at it, I was not. I told everyone that I can look at it and analyze it objectively, but I cannot take a position one way or another, and I'm not going to take a position one way or another. Whether the ballot initiative itself is good or bad, but I can analyze it compared to the talking points.
Yep. And the talking points were a lie. I mean, there's just no getting around that. The talking points were not factually correct comparative to the ballot initiative, and they knew it. Now, the other thing is that this, and there's no getting around this point either, because this is a very important point right now. That email was sent out in opposition to the ballot initiative, period. It wasn't sent out for any other reason. It was sent out as opposition to the ballot initiative. So Tuesday comes. They're going to hold this press conference. I'm there at the press conference. In the back, keeping my mouth shut.
Not for long.
Well, no. I didn't interrupt I did not interrupt their press conference.
Okay.
So they get up there, and it's AFP, and there's three guys from AFP. Well, it's three people from AFP that they would admit work directly for AFP. And then somebody from, is it the James Madison Institute?
Yes.
Is that what I said? Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody from the James Madison Institute, which is an organization funded by the AFP, or funded by the Koch brothers, same as AFP. And then there was one Tea Party group that was in attendance there, and that was the Broward Tea Party. Funny enough is the woman they brought up to support was a big Wiley supporter. But nobody talked to her ahead of time, I think, from us to say you shouldn't do this. But
And I don't think she's a follower of the Liberty First Network.
no, I don't think so either. But that's okay. No offense to her either. I mean, she was sold a bill of goods that was a lie. So AFP gets up there to the press conference and starts having a press conference about how they're against subsidies and they're against the government picking winners and losers. Everybody that gets up says the same thing like this, like we're against subsidies and we're against the government picking winners and losers over and over and over again. The media that's in attendance, which is about a quarter of the attendance that was there for the solar ballot initiative when the organization itself did, the media that was there was very confused. And they go, well, I thought we were here because you guys opposed the ballot initiative. Well, we're not going to make any determination on that at this time, but we're just coming up here about a general conversation about solar and about how it's not effective, how it doesn't work, and how it needs government subsidies in order to work, and all this other stuff. So what happened was, just to lay this thing out, AFP had to completely change the reason for their press conference because of the actions that we were able to take before the press conference, because they were looking for a bunch of organizations to stand with them, and they got one. And they know they only got one. And I think that they lied to the one.
Because I know her, and she's very reasonable, and she would have been on board with the initiative.
Yeah. So these guys go up there and have this press conference and look very, very, very foolish.
Which is what they're best at, really.
Well, I've never
Lately.
seen them look this foolish.
This was a new level of
They should
foolishness.
have canceled the press conference once they realized they didn't have.
Yeah.
And they should have just come out against the solar initiative, because what happened was is they changed the script of what they were going to be talking about. But they opened the door up to the Tampa guy, who actually asked them about Duke Energy and about the billions of dollars that has been taken away from the taxpayers via that nuclear plant that was never created. And they had no opinion on that. They go, where were you when that was going on? You want to talk about picking winners and losers. Where were you for that? And they had nothing to talk about there.
You don't like stealing taxpayer money to support something that's never going to happen. How do you feel on this one?
Isn't that a subsidy? Isn't that a really bad subsidy since we never even got it?
Yeah, it's worse than a subsidy.
It's worse than a subsidy.
So, yeah, we just stole it. So they, the media is clueless as to why they're even there at that point. They're like, I don't even understand why we're here. Then why is this news? You guys are against subsidies and against the government picking winners and losers. Duh.
It's on your website.
It's the basis for your freaking organization.
We could have just went to the About Us section of AFP.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. So they have this thing, and they say, well, there's one Tea Party group here that also agrees with it. And they said, well, we have Tea Party groups we have groups from all over the state that oppose this.
They just didn't want to stand with us
Yeah.
today.
They just didn't want to show up today.
We just can't manifest them yet.
All right, so they blow this press conference up. It really looks bad. They had to change the script because, look, they had to change the script because of a lot of people. It's not just me, but I'm one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of the credit for that one. You're welcome, AFP.
Well, I went on a phone call with a bunch of the when they say they had Tea Party groups all over the state of Florida, I was invited to a phone call on Sunday with Tea Party groups all over the state of Florida. And I was invited as the Liberty First Network and as the person who had analyzed the legislation and someone who had taken an objective look. I'm not with the Libertarian Party, so I have not signed on to this ballot initiative. I'm very critical of ballot initiatives as an individual. I'm very critical of ballot initiatives altogether. Because I'm very hesitant to add things to our Constitution. So it seemed like a good fit for me to analyze it because I take that very uneasiness whenever I see one. So, I analyzed it. I went back into case history and I had legal, court precedent that would show why some of the provisions that they had to add into the ballot initiative were necessary and things. So it took me many, many hours to get this together to make sure that I was being objective and kind of look through every line of their ballot initiative and why they put these things in there. Not why they say they did, but why they would have to law. And so when there were a couple people at that was I don't know if she was with AFP, but she was definitely very sympathetic to AFP's position. And was really trying to ask those gotcha questions. And I came back with just very rational, well, you're not understanding the difference between ballot initiative language, while we wouldn't want to see that in legislative language, that's very reasonable for ballot initiative language, and this is why. And at the end, even she didn't have, she was like, oh. So when they were saying, well, we have tons of Tea Parties all across the state, it's like, well, I was just talking to them on the phone, and I don't think they were with you.
They don't seem to know.
Yeah. So, Dan was right, by the way, and it was and some of those people were on their payroll at one point. Whether they want to admit that or not is a different story for a different day. And that's the thing, is that we have the truth on our side on this one. They don't. And they had the lies, and they thought that an old game would be able to play the way it used to be able to play. And it just wouldn't. It just wouldn't play this way. So they have this press conference. They screw the whole thing up. Now now the ballot initiative is still on. Not that they would have been able to necessarily stop it
they were
anyway.
going to stop it.
But it just goes to show you that these guys are really going to try to screw crap up for good ballot initiatives if they don't agree in the energy sector what it's all about. And that's when we had the conversation before on the show about the Koch brothers and about how it's all about energy policy. It is all about energy policy at the end of the day. There's a lot of other stuff that they will talk about at times, but at the end of the day, they are about energy policy. And they and again, let me just say it this way. They want to say that they're for the free market. They want to say that they're for, they're against subsidies and they're against the government picking winners and losers. That's what they say. However, they are coming out against a ballot initiative that will put a big chink in the armor of one of the biggest government-sponsored monopolies in this country. Whether it or not, they are standing on Duke Energy's side to allow for the government-sponsored monopoly to continue in the energy sector. Therefore, and I think that everybody that is part of AFP should understand that that's what you are supporting by supporting AFP. At the end of the day, they want to keep a government-sponsored monopoly in place and will tell you anything, any lie that they think they can get away with. They will tell you in order to keep that government-sponsored monopoly intact.
Yep.
I don't know if there's another way to say it, Daniel.
No, and I was asked on the call with a lot of the Tea Party groups, and they said, what would be AFP's motivation? And in Florida, I have not looked through AFP's records to see how much money they've gotten from Duke Energy or anyone else. I haven't. But I can tell you that the Koch brothers themselves and Koch Industries is heavily invested in coal energy.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, bad thing, by the way. Look, if they want to be heavily invested in coal and oil and natural gas, hey, man.
Great.
It's still going to be a worthwhile investment for a long time.
Well, they're worried because the threat to them is any shift in the energy paradigm in this country is a loss for them. And they don't want to risk any loss at any level at all.
Well, Greg, that's true. I would like to say it another way. AFP is pro-business, not pro-markets.
Yes.
That what they're doing is they like the business model that they have with oil and natural gas just the way it is. They don't want to change it. They don't want it to change because their business model stability is based off of a government-sponsored monopoly. And whether they want to admit that or not, that just is what it is, man. Here's the thing. I'm trying to say it in a clinical way because you could come out in support of that, I guess. I mean, you would be pro-business and not pro-markets, but that's what you would do. And maybe that's who you are. I am not pro-business. I am pro-markets. I am pro-loss. I am pro-creative destruction in the marketplace to advance innovation and to progress, for lack of a better term.
You're a progressive.
In that aspect, that I don't want the government to be able to control it, and I want this country to move forward, progress, whatever. All right. Again, I want as little government as humanly possible, so I'm not a big government person. However, I do want the marketplace to be able to be the guiding force in what happens as far as innovation goes, especially in the energy sector, because energy is control. If you can control energy, you can control the population. Now, what this ballot initiative does for me, more important than anything else, of everything else the initiative does, there is nothing in there personally for me that is more important than to eliminate the government-sponsored monopoly in the energy sector. We know we're not going to get this done through the legislature. The only get done is through the ballot initiative. Sorry, that's the way it is. AFP story for the day, folks. Hopefully you liked it. Again, I felt a little personal redemption on it, that I got to be involved in the side that smacked out of AFP and got them to have to change their press conference. So I do feel very good about that. I will not be meeting with them anymore. We are just on the opposite sides on this issue. A lot of other issues. But I got to tell you, AFP's got two choices here. You can either get involved with this one and lose a lot of supporters in this state, or you can stay the hell out of it and be okay. Because if you get involved in this, if I find one person that you've been contacted for the fact, then I'm going to hold a press conference.
And people will be there.
And more people will be there for my press conference than for your press conference. Because you got to remember, in this one, the media is on my side, not on your side.
Yep.
As you can tell by your press conference and the amount of geeking up that you guys there. And you guys need new policy people, by the way. I'm sorry, you just need new policy people because your policy people suck. So, all right, anyway, let's take a break. When we get back, a little other libertarian redemption this week when we discuss Rand Paul. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground, 1787 Radio Network. We're doing good.
I don't even know what any of
It's
that
been a
meant.
long week, man. I'm tired, man. I am tired. I'm really tired this week, man. I feel like we were on Wiley. That's what I'm feeling like right now.
It's very much a similar travel schedule.
Yeah. So, we talked about the AFP thing. Last week, the Libertarian Party had put out a meme that was very derogatory towards Rand Paul. And the Libertarian Party, libertarians, got a lot of heat based off of this meme. I stand by the heat that they still got because they shouldn't have done it. However, this week, Rand Paul went ahead and proved some of the reasons why we have a problem with Rand Paul. And let's start with what is currently going on foreign policy-wise. Let's tell a little bit of the story because you got to understand the whole story in its context to understand why what he did was wrong. Right now, our government, along with several other governments around the country, are involved with Iran on nuclear talks. The goal of these talks, supposedly, is to stop Iran from developing a nuclear bomb. Now, the neocons will tell you that Iran's already, far along with doing this. Netanyahu came over here to try to interject into this conversation or into this negotiations that are going on with all these countries and got audience with the entire country because he was able to have time on the floor of Congress to discuss this deal that he's not privy to. I mean, he's not a part of it. I'm sure our country has talked to him about what is going on over there, but he came over here to get involved in the middle of this deal and try to dictate foreign policy to us. Again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that's what he did. That's what his attempt was to do. And he was doing it because he feels that Iran shouldn't get a nuclear bomb, which I agree with him. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear bomb either. Want to go to war over it, he might be. That's a different story for a different day. But I don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons either. However, because I'm a non-interventionist, I think that having a conversation about it to develop some kind of an agreement as to why they shouldn't do it is probably a good thing. And while I have no faith necessarily in the Obama administration to do this, if you're in a negotiation, let me back out a little bit and talk about just negotiations in general. If you're in a negotiation with a bunch of different people, and these people have had problems with each other in the past, getting in the middle of it and making statements about it can geek up that agreement that you're talking about, especially when neither side really trusts the other side. Like, we don't trust Iran. Iran doesn't trust us.
Rightfully so on all sides.
Rightfully so on all. They don't trust us. We don't trust them. That's just the way it is. But John Kerry, who I don't like, and Barack Obama, who I don't like, are the president and the secretary of state, respectively, at this point.
Which we don't like.
Which we don't like.
Right.
However, with that being said, if somebody's in the middle of a negotiation, you wait until the end of the negotiations in order to see whether what they did was good or what they did was bad. Because it is possible, maybe unlikely, but it is possible that they're going to be able to work out a deal to where Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapons. They're claiming that they're not trying to develop nuclear weapons. That's Iran's stated claim, but we don't trust it. Even though agents from the Mossad to our own agents here, that there are reports that they have put out that says that Iran, they have no concrete evidence to is trying to develop a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, there's no evidence that anything that would be nuclear material is being used for anything except for actual power production in the country.
And if anything, CIA involvement has got them further along than they are.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Tom Cotton, who is a huge neocon, a young guy,
we also don't like.
A younger guy who's a huge neocon, has put together a letter. I can't get it up right now. I'm having so many computer problems this morning. It's not even funny. Who put together a letter and here it is. Here it goes.
Let Danielle read.
I have you have the letter up? Go ahead, read the
I
letter,
had it.
Danielle. This is the letter.
It's actually not very long. I can read this. This is Tom Cotton's letter. It says, an open letter to the leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran. It has come to our attention while observing your nuclear negotiations with our government that you may not fully understand our constitutional system. Thus, we are writing to bring to your attention two features of our Constitution: the power to make binding international agreements and the different character of federal offices, which you should see as negotiations. First, under our Constitution, while the President negotiates international agreements, Congress plays the significant role of ratifying them. In the case of a treaty, the Senate must ratify it by a two-thirds vote. A so-called congressional executive agreement requires a majority vote in both the House and the Senate, which, because of procedural rules, effectively means a three-fifths vote in the Senate. Anything not approved by Congress is a mere executive agreement. Second, the offices have different characteristics. For example, the president may serve only 2 4-year terms, whereas senators may serve an unlimited number of 6-year terms. As applied today, for instance, President Obama will leave office in January 2017, while most of us will remain in office well beyond then, perhaps decades. What these two constitutional provisions mean is that we will consider any agreement regarding your nuclear weapons program that is not approved by the Congress as nothing more than an executive agreement between President Obama and the Ayatollah Khamenei. The next president could revoke such an executive agreement with the stroke of a pen, and future Congresses could modify the terms of the agreement at any time. We hope this letter enriches your knowledge of our constitutional system and promotes mutual understanding and clarity as nuclear negotiations progress. Sincerely, and a bunch of names.
Now, 47 people, I think, signed this. Tom Cotton did it because he wanted to.
Because he's an idiot.
Well, because he wanted to raise his stakes and wanted to raise up in the minds of neocons everywhere, the Republican establishment.
Preparing himself for future political gain.
Yes, I mean he's a senator right now, so that is what it is.
He's got larger aspirations, I'm sure.
But combine this with Lindsey Graham, and combine this with what Netanyahu did over here, is that as far as I'm concerned, the Republican establishment thinks that going to war with Iran is a foregone conclusion. Now, if you think that going to war with Iran is a foregone conclusion, then anything that you can do to screw up the talks, or to try to screw up the talks, would be what you'd want to do. Because you already think that going to war with Iran is a foregone conclusion. I happen to think differently than that. I don't think we have to go to war with Iran. I don't think we should go to war with Iran, because that's a much different deal than what we would be going with when it came to Iraq or Afghanistan. More people, because if we're going to Iran, unless you're just going to nuke them, which I don't think we're going to do, then ground troops are going to be required and all this other stuff. So they only got the Republicans to sign on to this letter. There are Democrats. Now, typically, the foreign policy as it relates towards Iran has typically been much more of a bipartisan effort than it has been a partisan effort. Is that everybody on both sides has pretty much agreed to the sanctions on Iran and agreed to do the things to Iran that we're currently doing. It was bipartisan. The Republicans just made this partisan. Now, they didn't go after and try to contact any Democrat to sign this letter. They only went after Republicans.
Well, because it was also kind of a backhanded hit at the Democrats, specifically Obama and Kerry.
Yeah, definitely Obama and Kerry, because while they don't know exactly what done per se with the negotiations, they're under the assumption that Obama's going to cave on this one and that they're going to let them have nuclear weapons.
And what he's essentially saying in that letter is whatever deal you strike with Obama doesn't matter, because we're the ones that are going to have to maintain that agreement, and we're not going to.
Correct. Now, what they didn't write in that letter is what they'd agree to. They didn't write anything like that. They didn't write anything like that of what they would agree to. So this is a neocon-inspired document. And Rand Paul signed on to it.
Willingly.
Very willingly.
He defended it.
He defended it.
Did he pull a John Hancock and make it bigger than everybody else's?
No. And he's one of the last ones that they had on
He's
it.
like the second to last signature, or third to last signature.
Yeah, he's like the third to last signature that's, at least the way, the third to last signature that's on it. So and the Republicans really thought at the end of the day that this was going to be just this great thing, and
Everyone was going to love
and
it.
everybody was going to love it, and it backfired on them very badly, because what they've done now is there's a coalition of people that basically are all on the same side when it comes to Iran. That coalition is now starting to fall apart because of this letter.
I would like to write an open letter as a citizen of the United States to Iran saying all of those things that Tom Cotton wrote you are absolutely true. But the final arbiters and what he's not remembering is the people, and that we can end any of their terms at any time we so choose.
Correct.
Yes.
So Rand Paul decides to stand with the likes of Lindsey Graham, with John McCain, with Cotton.
Is Mitch McConnell in on
Mitch
this
McConnell.
I'm sure.
Of course, Mitch McConnell's in this.
Of course
as well.
he is. He was salivating.
Like, I can't read all the signatures that are on there. I mean, there's a list somewhere. I don't remember where the list is. I'm not looking at it right now.
It's
but-
hard to read all of this because I'm looking at the actual signatures.
Yeah.
So
Rubio,
like, I can see Bill Cassidy, I can
Ernst.
see Tom Tillis, but it's very hard to read their actual signatures.
Yeah. But basically, it's 47 senators, and they're Republicans. Okay, so that's just, I mean, we'll just go down the line on that one. There's 47 of them. They're Republicans. Rand Paul decided to stand with these guys in order to bolster this letter's effectiveness, basically, that the Obama administration is currently going on.
I would like to say that everybody else signed this except for one. Jerry Moran did not sign it. He just printed his name. So you have all these big, like, loopy signatures, and the very last one just says, Jerry Moran.
You sure that wasn't a stamper from the top?
No, he wrote it, but it's just very funny with it because it stands out.
He wrote it in Times New Roman.
Yeah. So this thing's starting to backfire. And now Rand Paul is saying, now that it's backfiring, he's going over and basically saying that he was doing this because he wanted to, quote, strengthen the president's hand, unquote, by reminding Iran that the U.S. By reminding Iran of the U.S. of the U.S.'s own hardliners. Paul also reiterated that sanctions on Iran would have to be lifted by Congress, and so he did an interview where he's basically trying to walk back what he was doing or try to explain what he was doing.
I signed it because I wanted to prove that we have fanatics too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So at the end of the day, this is the bigger of the things that Rand Paul had did this week that go to show that, let me say this first, people give Rand Paul a pass on a lot of things under the guise of playing the game. I don't know what game he's playing, but if the game that he's playing has an opportunity of getting us into World War III, maybe he shouldn't be playing that game. Maybe. And also, American people by far are not necessarily with him on this. Rand Paul is doing a good job of going out and reaching out to other communities about things that he can find agreement on. And for that, he should be cheered for. But when you do crap like this, this is a problem. And this is the problem, one of the biggest problems that I have with Rand Paul. And if you want to know why people like me aren't going to help this person that decides to stand with neocons, then look at what happened this week as a reason for that. What Rand Paul did out of political expediency, which he didn't even have to do, was sign on to a letter that the neocons are putting forward to try to screw up the negotiations that are going on right now with Iran to stop them from having a nuclear weapon. They're talking that we were going back and forth with them. I wish we had other people talking to Iran and not necessarily John Kerry and Barack Obama. I wouldn't want them there either. However, Rand again decided to stand with the neocons. I want to know at what point, when you stand with someone long enough, that you don't become one of them. What point is this that this would happen? Because I'm having a hard time figuring it out. And I would love for somebody that's a Rand Paul supporter, again, keep the phone open for the remainder of the show, 1-800-525-4032, 1-800-525-4032. Come on, explain Rand Paul and why this is a good thing. Because I'm getting sick and tired of the apologists, the myopic apologists, that everything that this guy does is somehow great. He's made no mistakes ever, and he's just playing the game. And the rest of us are just not politically experienced enough to understand the nuances that is Rand Paul. Because what I'm looking at is a guy that had an opportunity to advance a message that his father was bringing, and that he used it for his own selfish motives in order to get elected into office, and will screw over this country in order to try to gain a little bit more control over the ability to get elected into office. He's a politician. He's not Ron Paul. He's a politician that happens to be the son of Ron Paul. Because when it comes to foreign policy, it's pretty clear these two ain't on the same page. Now, you can say that, well, he really does believe in that. Don't stand with neocons, because that's what you did.
I actually found, and I've read through it, and it's actually really good, is that there's, and I don't know who writes this blog, but they had 10 ways that Rand Paul was exactly like Hillary Clinton, 10 policy positions. And I did go and check each one of them to make sure that they were accurate, and they were absolutely accurate on what they were saying, that there are 10 policy positions, and most of them do have to do with foreign policy, that Hillary Clinton and Rand Paul are exactly the same, including both taking large amounts of money from Raytheon.
So maybe that meme that the party put out wasn't such a bad idea.
Look, the problem with the meme that the party put out was that it included Ron.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And that was my issue with it.
That's wrong. You should have done that. However, with that being said, at some point, is this guy going to be held accountable? Now, one of the websites that's out there that is definitely supportive of Rand Paul, which is Rare. You have ever heard of Rare, the website Rare that's put on with Jack Hunter and all them?
Yes, sir.
Even they had to be a little intellectually honest this week, which was nice. Nice of them to be able to do that, because typically they're just a Rand Paul front. But this week they had to be a little intellectually honest, talking about how this was probably the wrong move for Rand Paul. So even they're saying that it's the wrong move for Rand Paul, even though I've never seen an article talking about how someone did something wrong that was as walking on eggshells as this article was. Because it totally was walking on eggshells. Now, again, you guys want to give libertarians crap because of a meme. Okay, fair enough. You want to give us crap for the meme. I in some ways, I'll agree with you. But if the alternative from us is to stand with the neocons to screw up trying to actually peacefully find a resolution to the Iran situation, if that's the alternative, I'll take a bad meme every day of the week.
Yeah.
I'll take a bad meme 5 days on Sunday, because we're not standing with neocons, you scumbags. The hell's wrong with you? Don't give me shit. Don't give me one lick of shit. Because the libertarians put out a meme that was stupid. When your boy's standing with Rubio and McConnell and Lindsey Graham and John McCain. All right, let's put things into perspective here, if you don't mind. Just saying. Perspective. Bad meme, standing with the neocons. Bad meme, remember, an electronic document that goes away in a week, screwing up negotiations before you even know if they went good or bad, because they didn't want to bomb them right away. To make a decision as to who you're going to be with in this thing. You can't call me politically naive, anything of it. That's politically naive. That's politically infantile, which is exactly what Rand was when he signed this stupid letter. So if you want to be outraged over a freaking meme, you go ahead, you be outraged over that meme. I'll choose to be outraged over shit that actually matters. Jerks. Don't make this don't come out after us one week and then he does this stuff and you stay silent. You better be able to have at least the testicular fortitude to back up what is going on and be honest. Let's just be honest here. Your boy is bought and paid for by the neocons. I'm sorry, don't put your name on stuff that proves me right. And you can try to bypass this all you want and say, well, that, this will blow over and it'll be some, he'll move on from this and he won't make this mistake again. At what point is he going to make enough mistakes to where you understand what we understand is that Rand Paul's in this for Rand Paul. He ain't in it for you. He ain't in it for me. He ain't in it to grow anything but his own power base. Sorry, just the way it is. And again, he can prove me wrong by starting to act like, how about we start just a little bit acting like your dad? Just a touch. Oh no, he's playing the game. You know, you people are selling out. You're selling out for a position that doesn't even matter at the end of the day. You're putting all your ducks into a row or putting all your eggs in one basket. And the one basket is the basket you shouldn't be putting your ducks in a row on if you actually understood the problem. Or eggs in. You know what I'm saying. Go ahead, Danielle. You disagree? You disagree?
No.
Greg's laughing.
Because you keep cursing.
You keep cursing and you're mixing up your euphemisms.
We started shaking our head when you started cursing.
Oh, I'm not supposed to curse, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to phase that out of the show.
All right, I'm sorry. I won't curse anymore today. It's just shit, though. I mean, come on. I'm sorry. I won't no more after that. I was just trying to be funny. But, okay, you're right. Now, the other thing that he said this week, by the way, was...
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. The other thing that he said this week was about being offended by gay marriage, I think is what it was.
Yeah, that gay marriage offends him.
Yeah, the gay marriage offends him.
Don't get one.
Yeah, don't get one.
I would suggest that he doesn't.
At any rate, the way the point he was making of, the government shouldn't be in charge of that is not a bad argument to make, but just...
But you had to make it in a really bigoted way.
Another thing is earlier this week I was at a place that had a person that was a Democrat, and the Democrat started not yelling, but kind of yelling at me because, well, you libertarians are this and this and this, and started naming off everything that Rand Paul is all about.
Right.
And I'm like, look, man, Rand Paul's not a libertarian.
And he goes, he isn't? And they keep using that word with him.
I'm like, nothing we can do about that guy. Like, it ain't. I don't get to tell the media how to narrate this stuff. So if you're looking for a little bit of my anger on this one, it's because the problem that, as I see it, is I have to defend libertarianism because of a person who doesn't claim to be a libertarian, but the media monikers as a libertarian, and that places like Rare moniker as a libertarian. When I explain what libertarianism is to people, then they understand it. My problem is I'm sick and tired of having to apologize for a guy that is competition to the party and the ideology I support. That's what I'm sick and tired of. Yep. You want to be a Republican, be a Republican. I don't care. Go be a Republican. That way when you stand with Lindsey Graham and you stand with John McCain and you stand with Marco Rubio in solidarity, because that's what you did, when you stand with those neocon scumbag authoritarian psychopaths, then I don't have to explain to somebody else why that guy's not a libertarian. Be a Republican. That's what you're good at, Rand. You're very good at being a Republican, though. You are the bomb. You're the bomb diggity Republican. Just be that. And leave libertarianism to the libertarians, scumbag. All right, hour number 1's in the bag. Hour number 2's coming up. Brandon, hopefully, was listening to the first hour of the show. We'll ask him about a couple things that we talked about, in addition to all the other stuff that's going on. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground, 1787 Radio Network, 1787network.com, 1787network.com. We're going to get Brandon on here from the Global Dispatch. We're going to talk about this as well as other things that are going on around the country.
There was also something going on with Lindsey Graham this week, and because I was very much invested in state legislation, I did not get to see what this was, but you had read it and knew something about it. So what was the thing with Lindsey Graham this week?
Okay, so Lindsey Graham is testing the waters. Hang on, let me get it up though, because I got to make sure I get him right, because it really is bad.
Up.
Okay, so do you got the did you have it up of what he actually said?
I guess I have pieces of what he said.
Okay, so basically, Lindsey Graham's out on the campaign trail.
Mm-hmm.
And he's out there talking to people. Now you got to remember, Lindsey Graham is, one of the largest neocons that's out there.
Right, of course.
Now, Lindsey Graham is the neocon's neocon. I mean, there's no getting around this. So he's out there, and he's saying that, crap. I'm trying to get to the exact quote, and I can't even get to the exact quote. Crap, this guy didn't put it in his article either. But basically that he says that he's going to, if he was elected president, he would use the military to put around and to everyone in Washington, D.C. restored all of the cuts that they would that they would have.
I see. I have it here.
Do you have it? Give the exact
It says,
quote.
I worried about this from day one. I'm sick to my stomach. New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte has been awesome. And here's the first thing I would do if I were president of the United States. I wouldn't let Congress leave town until we fix this. I would literally use the military to keep them in if I had to. We're not leaving town until we restore these defense cuts. We're not leaving town until we restore the intel cuts. Killing terrorists is the only option other than capturing them because they're not deterred by death.
Okay, so Lindsey Graham has basically said that if he were elected president, that he would hold the military hostage. Or he would hold
the Senate
You want the
hostage.
military to hold the Senate
Hold on.
hostage.
He would use our military
To hold
to hold
Congress.
Congress hostage. Now, he even said the word, I would literally.
Literally.
Now, what's the definition of literally?
It means absolutely, the true fact. It's a fact.
It means I would do this exact thing.
Right.
Not figuratively, literally.
Right.
So that's what Lindsey Graham did. He's like, literally, I will do this.
And he is showing why literally he should never be president.
Look, literally, Lindsey Graham shouldn't be a dog catcher. Because if he did, he would preemptively go into your house and take your dog because someday it might be off of the leash.
Yeah.
There would be no more dogs left because he would call a war against dogs, and every time a dog pooped in a public place, it was an act of terrorism.
He would just blanket bomb neighborhoods because they had dogs.
Yes, he would lay out chocolate everywhere for the dogs to eat and die.
I'm sorry we destroyed your entire town, but you had a Rottweiler somewhere running wild.
Yes. That's Lindsey Graham, folks. By the way, stood with Rand Paul in the letter.
That is true.
So let's just make sure we get that squared away here. That's a Republican for you, folks. That's the Republican Lindsey Graham. So, and again, Lindsey Graham is one of the most scariest guys that is that sweet in this country.
So Lindsey Graham not only wants to start a war with Iran, but also with Washington, D.C.
Now, and here's the funny thing.
They don't vote the way he wants them to vote.
Is that according to a Graham spokesman, Kevin Bishop, the military line was not to be taken literally. Then he shouldn't use the term literally in the line that you shouldn't take literally.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, it's one of those things, but, well, we shouldn't take him seriously. I think we should. The problem is we have taken this man seriously before. We should never take Lindsey Graham seriously. But it's just so painful, folks. It's so painful to be reading this stuff and seeing Lindsey Graham out there. And because he's having the time of his life. I mean, look, anything he can do to actually, start a world war, Lindsey Graham's all for. I think he's using his presidential campaign to see if he can start the war before he actually got elected as president. However, on the line with us right now is a man that is not trying to start World War III. His name is Brandon. He's from the Global Dispatch. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
No, I'm very blessed. Beautiful, beautiful day today. I was on vacation, so I was a little delayed here for a second. I guess if people can't get on the same page with Liberty Network to understand I have priorities, they got to move a little faster for me.
Exactly. The first thing we're going to talk about, do you know anything about the Lindsey Graham comments about, circling the military around Washington, D.C.?
Literally.
Literally, all I saw was the headline, literally. So,
tell you what he said, though. He said, literally, put the government or put the military around Washington, D.C., and until the politicians in Washington, D.C. restored the defense cuts, restored the cuts to intelligence, and basically started spending more money on military, that he would basically put the military around Washington, D.C. until those things were done.
I would literally use the military to keep them in if I had to.
Yes.
Now, his spokesperson...
I am literally grateful that Lindsey Graham doesn't have the power to do such things, literally.
Exactly.
The funny thing is Lindsey Graham's spokesperson said that it was not to be taken literally.
Yes. So Lindsey Graham's press people or representatives are saying that you shouldn't listen to Lindsey Graham.
Literally, Lindsey. Literally.
Let me just ask Danielle. Please forward me the email from their people that says it shouldn't be taken literally. Such a Big Bang Theory
Yeah, send that over to him. Send
I will-
that
I
over
will
to
send
him.
Literally?
Over to
No,
you.
not literally. It's like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
You can't make this crap up if you wanted to. All right, so there's a lot going on around the country right now, and I know foreign policy is something that we do talk about quite a little bit. What was your take on the Cotton Letter in and of itself? Or do you know about the Cotton Letter?
Yeah, I do. And, I have about history before. There's lots being made of this now. Obviously, we have the media, and they love to, create a lot of hyperbole. It's against the president, so anything that's against him, they got to circle the wagons on. And I do think it's very interesting that the Republicans are going to be so bold to put themselves out there this way, because it's not a topic that I think is polling real strongly for them. So I'm a little surprised that we're going to rally the party around attacking another country. I mean, it was just a very, I don't know. To me, it just seems like they're on the losing side of everything that's happened since they've taken session, even though they have majority. They haven't gotten anything right yet. So for them to choose this as another battlefield just was a very odd choice, I thought.
Now, let me ask you another question. Do you think and again, you can disagree with the president all day long, which we do very frequently. But if they're in the middle of the negotiations, does their letter help the negotiations or hurt the negotiations?
Well, obviously it's going to hurt the negotiations. I will disagree with you a little bit on what those negotiations may actually be. I mean, to me, if we don't walk into that room and demand at least the American prisoner that's in the Iranian prison to be released before we sit down, then it's not real negotiation. So the president's never done that. The president's staff has never done that. I'm not sure that I buy that we're actually doing like legitimate negotiations. And if we truly don't believe there's such a threat and they don't really have this program, then what are we really worried about negotiating over anyway? So there is a lot of the politicking on this, which has always been the case with Iran. Iran is definitely, it's really the big, giant, Shiite hotbed in the region. It is definitely the polar enemy of Saudi Arabia, who we treat as a ally. So I think there's a lot of pressure that comes from the Saudi government to ensure that we always treat and vilify everything that comes out of Iran. The Republicans, again, they're hitching their wagon to something that I'm not quite sure I get an upside to. You're in the middle of trying to drop bombs on Iraq and Syria because you've painted Islamic State as a bad guy. The leader of Syria is a bad guy. Now Iran is a bad guy. It's like, well, can we start hitching our wagons to some good guys for a while? Can we actually name who they actually might be? Because that's really the hardest thing for me, is sit back when you cover foreign policy, you cover the Middle East, is we love to drop bombs, we love to say and paint all these people as evil, but we don't ever really sort of prop up anyone who's actually allegedly good, and that we should sort of kind of like have as a role model, and we can kind of define a foreign policy plan around.
I got you. Now, something else, and you did put this out this week, so I guess we can talk about this one as well, is that we talked about Rand Paul in the last hour and how he signed on to the Cotton Letter. I guess before I ask you about the other thing that he did, what do you think about him signing on to that Cotton Letter?
Well, again, why is he hitching his wagon to that? It would have been easier just to say nothing. It's very contradictory to some of the other things that he said, but right now he's doing a good job of contradicting himself pretty regularly right now, and I don't know exactly if it's because he's got different advisors, if he's just trying to politic his way towards a more centrist deal headed into 2016 run. His entire campaign, from a 2016 standpoint, is just in chaos, in my opinion, because he doesn't have any platform that he's clearly defining and standing behind, and moving the way he did with Iran is just another example of that.
Okay. Now, another thing that happened was he was asked about some comments about the Kurds and about Kurdistan, and he was, again, he is for the nuanced position that he's been taking on this, or sometimes contradictory positions. The one thing that he was supposedly pretty adamant about is that we shouldn't be nation building, and then to come out with the comments as it relates towards the Kurds and about arming them and getting them to be able to have their own country seems to also contradict some of the things that he was talking about before. Can you speak to the arming of the Kurds comment in Kurdistan?
Yeah, well, he definitely has backers that he may have had with the way he's approaching his support for the Kurds, and that we should be arming the Kurds and moving in the direction of actually carving out territory to create Kurdistan. And while there is a movement to create a Kurdistan, there are people there that are trying to organize and try to do that. It really does show how naive he is when he's trying to talk about, because we have Kurds in Syria and Iraq. Well, that may be true, but the Kurds that are in Syria and Iraq want to stay in Syria and Iraq. They do not want to unify into some sort. Neither group wants to leave where they are, that they consider their homeland, to go to this new alleged Kurdistan. And that's not even factoring the Kurds that are in Iran and Turkey. And Turkey wants no part of this at all. They've been adamant. It's been very anti-U.S., to be honest. Anytime that we have meddled down this road with the Kurds carving out their own territory, the Turkish leadership speaks very adamantly against it. They are not territory. Again, why hitch your wagon to this? There's no upside. I got what you're trying to say, because you're trying to say they'd fight if they saw an end of the tunnel, whatever. Reality is, I'm not sure I believe the Kurds are particularly good guys either. They do have a terrorist faction as well, even though it's not sort of like the senseless violence, caliphate, throwing homosexuals off buildings sort of approach to their belief systems. Most Kurds are pretty passive and kind of want to be left alone. But to believe that you're going to somehow now nation build after you've kind of been campaigning and standing against this sort of stuff, speaking out, you've been ostracized by mainstream Republicans with your foreign policy stance, and now you take this kind of stance. I don't get it.
It's confusing. It's like, who do you think your base is, Rand? I mean, who is it that you're pandering to? You're all over the board.
That's a good point, by the way. And I want to ask a question this way. Understanding that you have to have support in order to run for president, what base is he actually trying to aim at right now?
I don't know what base he even has anyway, because he's alienating each group as he brings in another group. So I'm not sure there's a net gain. So when you start out and you're riding the coattails of your father and you're trying to be the libertarian bent Republican, now you've moved so rapidly away in the last 3 years, adamantly being a party politician in many, many ways. Now you're trying to appeal towards the mainstream Republicans, but then you want to be more libertarian in your communication of foreign policy. But then you take a stance like this, you hitch a ride on the Iranian war train. I really don't know. I agree with Greg's assessment. It's very confusing. I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
On this, because he's gone so wishy-washy on every single issue that I think it's just making every group not trust him.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you can't look when you walk on the line in the middle of the street. There's a good chance you're going to get run over.
But you're definitely pissing off every car.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And eventually squish, just like grape.
Yes, and eventually it is a squish. So I'm trying to figure out the move here. And look, I got to tell you, if I was a Rand Paul supporter right now, man, I would really be a person that would be like, man, the hell are we going to do here? Like, this guy's got to make a call on this stuff.
Yeah, because I think if we rewound the clock, we talked about, sort of these Tea Party / libertarian bent Republicans that could run for office, and you even, you have a Mike Lee and a Mosh and these kinds of things. Rand was kind of on the outskirts of that anyway. Mm-hmm. But now, especially over the last couple years, he campaigns for David Jolly. He's hitching on to these different moves towards, mainstream Republic, and I don't understand what the appeal would be, unless his advisors are just telling him he's not on the radar screen, he's not going to make the list, because we've talked about this massive list of Republicans, the money going behind the Bush campaign, those kinds of things. Maybe he's being told this is what he has to do, but there's no win there. He's just going to be a flip-flopper. He's just going to be a hypocrite. He's going to be, as Danielle said, how can you trust him on anything? He's all over the map. Do we believe Rand Paul of 4 years ago or Rand Paul today? And I don't see how you can sell that to the American people.
Yeah.
You can't sell it to the Republican Party, definitely.
Well, yeah, no, and I think that, look, the one thing that his dad did when he was running for office is he was very consistent. He was very consistent. Now, you can argue that consistency was one of the reasons that he wasn't able to garner support from the overall base of the GOP.
mainstream, right.
However, and this is a big however, I think that one of the things that happened with Ron Paul, and there's a woman that was been involved in that campaign, was involved in that campaign, and the 8 campaign and the 12 campaign, is not going to be dealing with the Rand Paul campaign as far as I know, but went out and was wearing a T-shirt, a Ron Paul T-shirt, and she was in a grocery store, and 3 different people came up to her, old people now not young whippersnappers, like older people, that said that, it took me a while, but I realize now that Ron was right on all these foreign policy things, that the work that his dad did in laying the groundwork for people to have a better understanding of a non-interventionist foreign policy in some ways has been successful. And that it seems to me that Rand doesn't successful and is abandoning that in order to gain new supporters. But the work that his dad did, it's almost like with marijuana policy. Like when marijuana policy first came out, everybody was it was getting 35%. Like nobody wanted to see marijuana be legal, and then all of a sudden it goes from the 30s to the 50s to the 60s because all that work that was being done to educate the public was actually successful. Well, in this instance, the same, to where all this talk of non-interventionist foreign policy and Americans are getting war-weary and they think we ought to just focus on our own problems and not worry about the world problems, is that has worked in some aspects. To abandon that is the base is going there. You are going away from the base of people that you would need to support you in running for office, but you're pissing everybody off because even the ones that are all the pro-Hawk ones think that you are lying, think that you are playing. It's not like this game is being played in a vacuum and no one else knows it. I mean, the other side knows he's playing a game too, if that's what he's doing. But you're not getting the support. You're not going to get those supporters at the end of the day because those people would rather vote for Lindsey Graham than vote for you. And they disagree with him adamantly on immigration policy. But again, they're hawks. They're neocons. They want another guy that's willing to bomb people in other countries. And I don't know what base you're going at. So, do you think that Ron Paul's affect, Brandon, on the foreign policy conversation was effective at the end of the day?
Oh, I don't know how it couldn't be. I mean, he didn't do a good enough job, in my opinion, of trying to explain why the Kurds are an exception to this rule. And I wish I was the one doing the interview because I simply would have asked him when he went that far to go, let me ask you this then. Are you willing to use drones to... He's been such an adamant anti-drone guy, at least on the surface, and wants to filibuster and get all this praise for doing it. Okay, well, is that what you're saying? Or are you saying we should use the U.S. military's force, the drones, and all these other things, ignoring the airspace restrictions of even to make this happen?
Yeah, because that's what... Now, isn't Turkey a NATO partner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Turkey wants no part of the Kurdistan plan.
Yeah.
None.
That means by treaty we wouldn't even be allowed to do what he's wanting to do then.
At least not with their real estate, no.
Yeah, not with their real estate.
And if he's just saying we're only talking about Iraqi Kurds or we're only talking about Syrian Kurds, then he doesn't understand the geography and the landscape. Again, he's proven to be just about as ignorant as many of his Republican cohorts.
Well, and I think that is the problem, is that all of them, when you listen to them and you listen to what they're saying, none of them understand the tribal issue that's going on. And we say this almost every single week, that they keep talking about this group and that group and this group and this country, but it all boils down to 3 tribal groups that are having a conflict.
All for a long time.
Thousands of years.
They're not going to get along. We got to stop pretending that they're going to... We can actually look at the history, and as bad as the Iraq war situation is, one thing we can hang our hat in is we tried. We gave the 3 parties their chance. We gave them an equal opportunity to have a voice. They actually carved up the government. It was close to being in thirds in many ways, and it still collapses in and on itself because they can't play nice together. So stop pretending that they can, and then figure out a solution going forward that might actually involve their government, because all of our conversations never involve who's in charge of Iraq now. I asked people at work, this came up at my work, the daytime job away from the Global Dispatch, and no one even knows who's in charge of Iraq right now. No one can name a name.
I don't think they
people,
know.
Yeah, I don't think people in Iraq know who's in charge now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so isn't that part of the problem? We don't even know who's in charge. How can you even remove policy in place? How do you even have a war plan in place? Churchill's rolling over in his grave right now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing that was also on the headlines was about the FCC releases the net neutrality summary. Some of the new buzzwords that are out there with limited openness. Can you kind of go along with any of what was going on with net neutrality or with what the FCC did?
You're asking me if I want to go along with any of this?
No. Can you go along and tell us what happened?
Go over it, not go
Go
along.
over it. I'm sorry, go over it. My bad.
He's using
No,
very,
I
very
want to go
poor
over it, all
terminology.
right, with a bulldozer.
Literally.
Limited openness. I will literally be opposed to limited openness, which I love that there's a couple of these little buzzwords that are in there, folks, and it is, I couldn't resist by tracking down one of their big socialist supporters and quoted him. You email and tell me that I'm wrong with how I presented the facts that are in it and what his statement is, that it's about control. It's the step towards the socialist system. They can, basically much of the language is we're taking them on goodwill, good faith, that they won't do certain things. They're just snatching away the things that your internet providers do, whether it be, someone pays a little bit more, they're going to have faster speeds, whether they have, Facebook and Google are being run right now on you're paying to play. If you want your content promoted, you want your stuff being out there, you got to put in money in the system. This is almost like the FCC snatching a lot of that power away to say, no, we're going to do that. We're going to control who's going to pay to play and how that's going to happen. And there'll be limited openness, and there'll be all these little new buzzwords and idiosyncrasies. So, again, the scary language that wasn't supposed to be there really is there, and we're not going to question it because on good faith, we're not going to do all these evil things that, the conspiracy theorists are pointing to, going, listen, this is what's going to happen. And I don't know, guys, you fast forward the clock 5-10 years, we're going to look back to ObamaNet as well.
Well, I have a question for you, Brandon, as it relates towards this. And that is, one of the things that I believe is a massive trigger to have a revolution in this country damn near overnight is something that has to do with the internet. If they go too far with this, there's we won't need the internet to actually have the revolution because everyone will just get out of their houses and be like, okay, we're going somewhere to fix this thing. And you have 2 million people in Washington, D.C. very, very quickly about get the FCC out of the internet. If they go too far, I believe that will happen. Do you think that, that they even have that concern, or do you think that I'm wrong and that if they do it in the right way, that people will just go with it?
Well, it's not that you're wrong. I think that, they already know that. So they know how to, they're playing the game differently. And, what Obama's administration has done is take the worst of the Bush administration and make it worse. And they figured out how to move towards the more socialist and communist manifesto in a more timely fashion. We're in no hurry. The other headline you'll see, another top story right now in the Dispatch is they have the ATF has backed off the ban of the AR-15 ammunitions that came out. Doesn't mean that Obama still won't go forward with an executive order. It just means now the ones that were, saying this is going to happen, now that those of us that were saying this was on the table, now we're going to be called kooks and crazies because they're going to back away from it. So what they're going to do is if you try to say what you're saying, they're going to ban Facebook. They're going to do whatever. They're going to, well, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. No, that's true. They're not going to do that because they know that would cause the riots in the streets. But so small and minute changes, these things will go into place. It'll be these little things that are offensive, these little things that are too disproportionate, the wealthy, the Koch brothers. It'll be all the same kind of name dropping, all the same sort of things they'll hit your wagon to, as long as they can move the agenda forward. But I'll say this, the internet will not look the same in 5 and 10 years. It already doesn't 5 and 10 years ago. When we first started, way back when we started Desk O'Brien, there's no way you can compare how it runs and how things are put into Google Yahoo, Bing, Facebook, and Twitter 5 years ago. And I don't mean that just because it's just changed because the amount of people that are on it. I mean the way they serve information, the way they handle, filter, censor information, it would just shock. So I could do a whole seminar just on that.
Actually,
so it's only going to get worse, not better.
Actually, I would like to. We won't do that this week because we're running out of time here. But I would like to actually do that another time where we have a good discussion about how the internet's changed. Though I think that would actually be one that would have a lot of value because you're right. Though I mean, they're going to do little by little, and only those that are the most in tune and understand the internet as well as like you would, Brandon, will actually be able to have that discussion to explain to everybody what's going on. So we'll have to let's.
We'll work on when to do that. Yeah.
Brandon, is there anything?
Let me add one last thing to that. Remember too, also the news that had come out about 2 weeks ago was that Google was talking about designating certain sources and ranking that information as fact. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about the credibility of the source. It wasn't about Facebook likes they have or Twitter, all that kind of. So I asked really quickly, can't get an answer back. I said, well, let me ask this. So if I disagree and I think that maybe climate change science might be faulty, I didn't say it was wrong. I just said I think there are questions. That's not deemed a fact, so therefore that information either won't get served or I would be penalized. How is that going to work? So that's kind of, I think, the road that we're headed on. That's not even in the FCC part of it. That's just within the mainstream of the big internet search engines and providers. That's already in the works.
Damn. They're coming. Boy, they are really coming. We have to make sure that we fix all this stuff. We really got to make sure we get this stuff fixed. All right. Any other stories, Brandon, that you wanted to bring up?
There's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, I think you guys had sent out a lot of great suggestions as well. We did cover the Oklahoma thing a little bit, which I think is a fascinating analysis to have, the marriage license thing revisited in a completely different manner than other states, and that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Tons of pop culture stuff. Obviously, Cinderella comes out today. I'll write my review on that this afternoon. I think it's going to be a massive weekend for that film. It's a great film for little girls. If you're a big fan of the cartoon, you're going to absolutely love this film. Of course, there's a little Frozen short on it, so all the Frozen people are going to go bonkers. And that, of course, led into the news that, Frozen 2 is in the works. And I actually have an interview with T-Dog from Walking Dead, so I'll be posting that this afternoon. T-Dog from Walking Dead's got a new book out, and it's pretty cool. It was probably one of the best interviews that I've ever had with somebody who just came from the ghetto and just clawed and climbed his way out of it, and making a life that's good. And it's been a lot of good stuff. It's been a fun week for the Dispatch.
Nice. A BDE or BWE for the Global Dispatch too. A best week ever. So that's good. His name is Brandon. The website is theglobaldispatch.com. Again, Brandon, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being on, man.
All right, you guys take care. Talk hard.
Talk hard. It's always nice talking to Brandon.
It is.
I know you can't wait to see Cinderella.
And here's the thing.
I'm looking forward to that.
He said it was the best interview he ever did with someone who kind of came from the streets and worked his way up and things like that. But how many of those interviews is Brandon doing?
Wow, I mean, look, he's doing a lot of interviews.
Well,
now,
I mean, I know he does a lot of interviews, but to say it so specifically like that, it was just kind of like.
I don't think he literally did that.
I should not take Brandon Jones literally.
I think he was being more general than literal. Brandon Jones, that's the Global Dispatch, theglobaldispatch.com. All right, let's take a break, and we'll get back. We have all kinds of things to talk about. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
This is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9, or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, UI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network. I'd like to call the program to discuss all the topics that we've been talking about today, or argue with us, or tell us that we're wrong, or tell us that we literally should shut up. The number is 1-800-525-4032. Let me say that slower. 1-800-525-4032. And if you're Spanish, it would be uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco,
Okay, let's not go.
Ocho,
ahead.
cinco, 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 uno, dos, uno, dos.
But don't say it in Spanish because we don't understand that. So, a lot of different discussions being talked about today. Let's get into some drunk talk, Danielle.
So and I love these Secret Service stories because we've had many lately where like a child has walked through the gate and all of a sudden it was like a major security breach because a toddler walked through the gate and
Could have a grenade in its diaper.
yeah, so we've had all these, huge security breaches by small children. But the Secret Service made their own security breach because two drunken Secret Service agents crashed through the White House barricade and drove through an active bomb investigation and directly beside the suspicious package.
What? Say that again. Literally, say that again.
So on March 4th, there's two Secret Service agents who were boozing it up, and they got behind a wheel of a car and decided they were going to, drive back to work. And they drove through the White House barricade, the security barricade, which, again, when a toddler walks through this, it's a major breach of security. The Secret Service crashed through it by drinking by driving drunk. And there was a suspicious package that was being investigated. So it was an active bomb investigation of a suspicious package. And they cruised right by it, just busting through the barricades. And like, hey guys, what are y'all doing standing out here? This is kind of cool. And just kept driving through.
We brought back some brewskis.
Look, between the Brazilian hookers and the toddlers getting through, what the hell is going on with this? Do you ever get the feeling that the movie Idiocracy is being currently played out in Washington, D.C. right now?
Absolutely.
Yes. And I love, and now this is what I found funny, because I'm reading this article.
But it has electrolytes.
In the Washington, I'm reading this article from the Washington Post, and it says, according to current and former government familiar with the incident, this happened on March 4th. How many former government, how many people left being a government official from March 4th till now?
That was 9 days ago.
Yeah. Now, one thing I thought was funny here was the House Oversight Committee Chairman Jason Chaffetz told CNN that his initial understanding is that the two agents were partying in Georgetown when they responded to an incident at. And it says, drinking on the job isn't good at McDonald's, and it certainly isn't good if you work for the Secret Service, he said.
So they came back, which and I'm reading the story, which says they were called back for an extremely serious incident, and they drove through the barricade from this extremely serious incident and drove past the extremely serious incident.
I know that, with things going down the way they have been, that they were looking for a new head of the Secret Service. Did Rob Ford get the job?
Do you think that's what it is? That Rob Ford ended up getting the job?
It sounds like he's running the show. Wow. Hookers and blow, liquid lunches. I mean, come on.
If they start speaking in Jamaican accents and insulting people, then it is definitely Rob Ford policy.
I literally think that Rob Ford's there.
But I will not take you literally on that
Don't
statement.
take me literally on that, though. But I'm literally thinking that. I'm just saying. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously. I mean, really. I mean,
they also
stuff writes itself, folks.
They
This stuff writes
also
itself.
think that the agent suspected of drinking may have also been drinking on presidential trips to the Florida Keys and Amsterdam. Listen, if they were in Amsterdam, they weren't.
Yeah, they were definitely drinking in the Keys, and they were probably not drinking in Amsterdam.
I think they were literally smoking weed.
Could probably urinate nuggets at this point.
Maybe.
But they do say that they have a zero tolerance policy.
It certainly doesn't sound like they have much tolerance. They're driving through barricades and over bombs.
Those guys weren't fired, by the way.
No, they're not.
They were reassigned. Literally. They were literally reassigned, folks. That's what they were done. They didn't fire those
Do you
people.
mean that in the Lindsey Graham form of literally, or in the actual form of literally?
I literally mean both.
What were they reassigned to be? Are they now like bouncers at the bar that the congressmen hang out at or something? I mean,
Nondescript, non-important roles, basically. It's just, I mean, honestly, guys, you can't make this up, man. You can't make this crap up. But this is just BS all day long. But it is what it is. I can't believe it, man. Like, why, guys? Why? Look, the Secret Service I thought was like an important job. Like, is it racist now? Because black guys there, we don't have to worry.
Well, now the incident that they back to this basically parked near the southeast entrance, holding a wrapped package in a green shirt. I don't know why the green shirt is significant, but they put it in the article, so I guess green shirts make it
coming up on St. Patty's Day.
And she says, I'm holding a curse word, the F word, bomb. So she says, she's yelling, I'm holding a bomb, and hands it over to them. And these two just go barreling through. Just, hey guys, we're back, we'll help.
We got the Funyuns.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't even know what to say here. I really don't even know what to say here. All right, let's move on to something else. I literally want to move on to something else. Right. All right, so
so do you have something? Okay, you have the same thing.
Yeah, I do. Greg, you know Oklahoma, right?
Oklahoma, where the
Would you?
Do you mean the musical, the theatrical performance called Oklahoma, or of Oklahoma?
I'm really kind of referring to the state.
I'm more familiar with the musical, however.
I am more familiar with the theatrical performance of Oklahoma. But go ahead.
All right, so would you say that Oklahoma is a red state or a blue state?
Oh, I would assume this is very much a red state.
A very red state, right?
I would suppose that, yeah.
Okay.
Being in that area of the country tend to be very red.
I got you. So one of the things that Oklahoma is definitely against as a state overall is gay marriage.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But because of some court rulings that have passed that have said that, saying that same-sex marriage is unconstitutional, banning same-sex marriage has been deemed unconstitutional, Oklahoma is doing something to make it so they don't have to worry about it anymore. And they have come up with a solution that on the surface sounds like the actual solution to the problem, which is not a bad thing. And I didn't think that it would actually get to this, but I actually kind of like that it's getting to this.
For the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons. No. For literally the wrong reasons.
The complete right action for very, very wrong reasons.
And I'm really surprised that a state that has its own phallus is so opposed to gay marriage. But anyway.
That's a good point. Oklahoma okayed a house. Oklahoma's
I like
house.
that they say Oklahoma okayed.
Yeah. Oklahoma House okays bill ending state marriage licenses. So what they did was, and I'll read some of this from the Southwest Times or whatever. Sparked by controversy over same-sex marriages, the Oklahoma House of Representatives passed a bill Tuesday that would abolish government-issued Oklahoma's marriage licenses. Quote coming from here. The point of my legislation is to take the state out of the process and leave marriage in the hands of the clergy, said State Rep. Todd Russ, Republican out of Cordell, the bill's House author. Marriage was historically a religious covenant first and a government-recognized contract second. Under my bill, the state is not allowing or disallowing same-sex marriage. It's simply leaving it up to the clergy. So under the House Bill 1125, will be replaced by marriage certificates issued by clergy and others authorized to perform marriage ceremonies. The bill passed the House 6724 and will now go to the Senate for consideration. Now, here's the thing. This is the best part. Because of this, the Republicans are putting this forward and saying, okay, let's just get the government out of it. The Democrats are now arguing that there's unintended consequences, like this wouldn't give us the ability to stop bigamy or polygamy. So now, and I can't make this up, folks. I wish I could make this up. So the Democrats were opposed to this because it would open up the door to bigamy and polygamy.
Which has built-in consequences. There shouldn't be a law against them anyway.
Exactly.
The consequence of having more than one mother-in-law. You shouldn't have a law. There's built-in consequences.
It's a point there. Go ahead, Danielle.
I don't want.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say something right there. I'm sorry. My bad. So
I was going to say you should never ever read stories.
Okay. So here we go. So one of the Democrats says, as I read your bill, as long as the clergy has signed off on it, the state will have essentially signed off on it, said House Minority Leader Scott Iman, a Democrat out of Oklahoma City. You are potentially opening up Pandora's box. So now they said that, well, there's laws in the books that stop for those other two things anyway, so it doesn't affect this. But basically what Oklahoma is doing is they realize that they're going to lose the fight. So instead of having to do it, they're just saying, well, we're just not going to look at, we're out of the marriage business. The clergy's going to deal with it, and then we just give them a certificate based off of whatever the clergy did. Right? Is that the right solution, guys?
Yes, it is the right solution.
I mean, I know that they got it for the wrong reasons, Danielle. I know that they totally did it for the wrong reasons. However, though, I understand that they did it for the wrong reasons, but isn't it still the right solution?
Yes.
Why?
Well, and here's the thing is that if it's almost the right solution. It's really, really close. Because I would say that you would also, you would also have to recognize other certificates that were not issued by, because this makes everyone have to go to a religious institution, and some people like an atheist or an agnostic couple would not want to do that. I mean, they don't believe in that. So I think you're still kind of discriminating against them, but they could organize what they can consider a church without it being religious tenets, and they could do this. So, I mean, there's ways around. For one, they have no business to be in anyone's personal relationship, so I think that makes it a good step. But I think that this makes it to where the legal dissolution of a marriage would now not be based on statute, that you would actually have to have contract law, which would actually literally clean up a lot of the issues we have with family courts around the country.
Now, one thing that they did say, and I said in the beginning, was by clergy and others authorized to perform marriage ceremonies. So, and I went looking this up last night, and I couldn't. I went to a website that had like what is like laws in certain states as it relates towards marriage, and I couldn't really tell like what would be the process for you to be able to be considered someone that could perform marriage ceremonies.
Well, in most states, they do allow what would be considered an ordained minister or head of a religious organization. That is honestly, there are people who take online courses. It's like a 2-hour course to be an ordained minister. You pay your $25 and you become a legally, officially ordained minister. And you don't really have to believe in any certain tenets of any single religion or anything like that. So, I mean, you can become an ordained minister without actually declaring like a denomination of religion or anything like that. So there is a process for that. It's a legal process. Now, most states do also authorize a notary to also perform marriage licenses. All states do. And if this bill were to simply say that it would have to be, someone ordained under a religious type of affiliation, and not singling out which one, then, that would make it an ordained minister or, someone who's legally the head of a church or something like that. I don't know if this bill would allow for notaries with what I've read about it. But most states do allow a notary to also perform a marriage ceremony. And I was a notary for a period of time, and I actually did perform marriage ceremonies without being affiliated with any religious organization. Although I was affiliated with a religious organization, I did not perform marriages through that organization.
The power was vested in you by the state of Florida.
By the state of Florida.
I got you. Now, I want to read this other part here. I know you want to read this other part here.
Yeah, I really wish you'd stop.
Yeah. The executive director of Freedom, Oklahoma, which advocates gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender individuals, House passage of the measure. This legislature puts all couples who plan to marry in Oklahoma at risk of being denied hundreds of federal legal rights and protections if it were to become law, said Troy Stevenson, executive director of Freedom, Oklahoma. The federal government and other states will not be required to acknowledge these proposed marriage certificates. This legislation will only result in mass confusion from clerks' offices in courtrooms around the nation while putting Oklahoma families at risk.
That's actually incorrect. What the federal government has to acknowledge is any way that the state recognizes marriage licenses. So if the state decides that they recognize a marriage certificate signed by the organization, by these people, and that's who they authorize to sign a marriage certificate, and that they authorize a marriage certificate to be a legally binding contract, then the federal government has to recognize that as a marriage.
Correct.
And on the IRS forms, there's now going to be a new option. There will be married filing singly, married filing jointly, and married filing confused as all get up.
Literally.
Literally.
Now, again, we have to yell at everybody equally when they mess with gay people.
You want to yell at pro-gay people.
I'm going to yell at pro-gay people right now. Literally. Well, maybe not yell, but I'm going to.
So you don't mean that literally.
I'm going to speak to you in a way that I hopefully you understand.
It's a strongly worded talking to.
Oklahoma has given you the solution. Again, anybody can. The ability to be an ordained minister to perform marriages is very simple to do, right, Danielle?
Yes, it is.
In every state.
In every state, because in every state, it's a national issue.
So you're going to have people that will if there's one person that wants to marry you. And there will be an industry of people that will go out there. If they did this, and let's say all the churches around let's say that 90% of the churches around the country said, we're not going to marry gay people. You can go get a certificate. Let's say you're a gay person. You're like, well, that's wrong. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. Then go get a damn marriage license. Get a certificate that says that you can be an ordained minister and that you can marry gay people and marry all the damn gay people you want. Charge $30 or $50 or whatever you're going to charge people in order to do this certificate. Make a business out of it and marry the people that want to be married. There's nothing that's going to stop people from being married. The problem that this Troy Stevenson has is that he wants it to where these people that don't agree with him have to do it. Troll, and he believes in force. He wants to force his view of gay marriage onto the rest of these people who don't necessarily support it. Now, Oklahoma is going to give you the actual solution to the problem, but that's not good enough for you because it's not the government forcing it. And that's what you want at the end of the day. You got to. What do you want? Do you want the freedom to be able to be married, or do you want the control of forcing everybody else to agree with you? I personally don't care. You want to get married all day long. Go find a minister that's willing to do it, and you can do it all day long. Get the government out of the problem. Because as long as that's the problem, as long as you want the government to deal with it, then you're already in a bad position anyway. Stay out of it. You got what you wanted. You should be happy that this is what they did. But it's not good enough for you, is it? It's not good enough for Troy Stevenson, the director of Freedom Oklahoma, because this is a little too much freedom for Troy. That's what it is. It's too much freedom. Is that people should be allowed to do what they want to do. So if you want to get married, then you go find a minister to do it. But we're not going to force them to do it. And anything that minister puts up will be good. Oh, it'll be confusing. Yeah, I know, because freedom's a little bit confusing for you, literally. Like, what pisses me off is that some people are dead set on their to be the right answer, that when the right answer actually presents itself, that it's actually right here, literally. Oh, no, we can't do that because a Republican did it. You partisan hack person, you. That pisses me off. Like, okay, they gave the solution. This should be going to their country right now. But what are they doing instead? No, this ain't right, because they're not making it so these government officials have to marry people regardless if they like gay marriage or don't like gay marriage. You have the freedom in this country to believe that gay marriage is a great thing, and you have the freedom in this country to believe that gay marriage is a bad thing, and that we have to celebrate both of those freedoms. That means that for when it comes to marriage, that the government should literally be out of it.
Yeah.
Anything?
I agree.
So Troy Stevenson is wrong in your guys' opinion?
Yes.
I'm just making sure. Just put it out there. Throwing it out there. Really putting it out there for you. I want to see if you're literally going to put it back to me.
If you don't like it, send it back.
If you don't like it, send it back. You know, just the tip, just to see how it feels. So
get all this out before we go on terrestrial radio.
So kudos to Oklahoma, folks. Kudos to the Oklahoma. Go Sooners.
Completely wrong reasons, but you're on the right track.
Yeah.
But you know what though? You're right. Wrong reasons, but right reasons.
Wrong reasons, wrong justification. I mean, he's wrong on every level. Everything he says is wrong except the ultimate conclusion.
Right.
Yeah. But look, at the end of the day, though, marriage was a religious institution before it was ever a government one. That's
no, it
true.
wasn't. That is not true.
It wasn't a religious
Marriage predates every religion.
Right.
So what the hell was it then?
It has always been a social economical control system. Anthropologists we recognize as marriage back to prehistoric times.
Cavemen.
Yeah, it was used among tribes to keep the often fatal feuding over the most nubile women within the tribe from taking place. Men were killing each other over the nubile women in the tribe.
Nubile?
So
what the hell is that word?
Prepared to procreate, essentially.
The horny ones.
Yeah.
Well,
because I'm preparing for terrestrial radio.
You don't say things like that, and what it means, it doesn't even mean that. It just means that they are physically able to have children.
Yes.
The breeders.
Yes. So basically,
Nice.
basically, the strongest men in the tribe would fight each other over the best-looking, ready women and kill each other over it. And the leadership of these tribes said, "This doesn't work. So we're going to start pairing you off, and you two are together, and you guys don't get to fight over this and kill each other because we need you all to go out and hunt some food."
Some of the other tribes over there.
And for the history of humanity, it has stood more as an economic and government issue than it has a religious issue. It has been used more over history to determine who owns land, who owns what, who is fighting with each other and who is not, than it has anything to do with the church.
And even in a biblical sense, wives and multiple wives and all these things were attributed to who held the most property. So if you held the most property, then you also got most wives.
I got
Yeah.
you. All right.
I mean, these guys talk about traditional marriage, and it's like, oh, do you want to go back to the traditional marriage where women were property and traded off for land and get no say in what happens? Because that's what marriage has been more of human history than anything else.
Literally.
Literally.
All right, let's take okay, good points, guys. But we got to take a break. We're hard up here.
Yeah.
Let's.
We're hard up.
All right, so let's take a break. We'll be back. Hour. That's radio. We're going into Ferguson. We'll be back. Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free, and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-00.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the entire state of confusion. This is Alex Snicker, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia, Danielle Alexandra. How are you doing?
I'm literally doing very well.
Literally doing very well.
Literally.
Huh? Also,
just don't take my words literally.
Also, Prime Minister of the Sinister, Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Literally spectacular.
There you go. Fabulous?
No.
Just spectacular.
Fantastic, maybe.
Maybe fantastic. Okay.
And if you don't know why we keep saying the word literally, then go to the 1787network.com. Listen to the first 2 hours of the show. You can watch them on YouTube, and you will understand why we are obsessed with the word literally. But not literally.
But if you do want to call the program, the number is 1-800-525-4032. It's 1-800-525-4032. Well, for the third hour of the show today, I thought that it would be a good idea to have a majority of the focus on Ferguson. There's a lot of teaching moments that you could say that are coming out of this.
Moment.
There's a lot of teachable moments. Now, this week, there's been a lot of things that have happened in Ferguson. The first one being that a report came out from the Justice Department, and that in this Justice Department, well, let's talk about the overview of the things that have happened. So, first thing is the Justice Department came out with their analysis of what happened in Ferguson.
Last week.
Also, this week, the police chief and the police chief and the judge have resigned. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, there's still rioting going on, and that 2 police officers were shot. Mm-hmm. So let's get to the first things first, which is the report. We talked a little bit about it, but it's going to have to be reiterated this week. The narrative that the media is going off of is showing that there was a lot of racism that was going on in the Ferguson Police Department. That is partially true, but that's not why the police chief resigned. The real reason that the police chief and the judge resigned is that it has come out that the Ferguson Police Department was using their police for revenue generation. This is something that happens all over the country, though, not just in Ferguson. Now, it is illegal. It's not legal, either via federal law or via state law, that law enforcement is revenue collection. However, what we saw in New York when what's his name, Gardner, right?
Yeah, Eric Garner.
When Eric Gardner was killed, and felt that they were not being respected, should have been respected, and they were a little bit scared of what was going on with the riots and with the backlash from the Gardner death, is that they said, well, we're just not working. When they stopped working, then all the little they were only working for like victim crimes. They stopped all the victimless crime stuff.
They actually started doing what they were supposed to be doing all along.
Yeah, libertarians would argue that they actually went to what they were supposed to be doing overall, which ended up being a good thing, that they were doing that for a little while, but revenues to the city of New York went down tremendously.
But the people were happier.
Yeah.
What came out in this report is that the city of Ferguson was actively, literally, utilizing the police powers to generate revenue. That's what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And they were caught doing that. So the police chief and the judge had to resign because of this.
Right. Now, and listen, they did put out that they're between several officials in the police department, but when they say, well, it was disproportionately, African Americans that were being targeted and things like that, there 2/3 of the population in Ferguson are African American. So while they were receiving a large amount of the citations and things like that and arrests, the makeup of the city is a majority African American city. It was still disproportionate. There was still much more than 2/3 of the citations and arrests were African American, but it's not as bad as other places when they compared it.
Well, yeah, because I think you're like the population's like 66%, and 80% of the tickets were going to African Americans.
Right.
So like it was a 20% increase based off of the population number, which again, look, it's still bad. However, it's not overtly like it's not as bad as that they were doing it for the reason. They weren't doing it as much for racism as they were to generate revenue.
Well, and this is because there's other cities that will only have a 30 or 40% African American makeup and still have 60 to 70% of the citations going there. So compared to other cities, it wasn't as bad as other places considering the population makeup.
Correct. So this report comes out, the police chief, the judge, forced to resign. It's unfortunate, and this is where the media is really at fault here of not reporting the actual story that should have been reported, which the racism is definitely part of it. I'm not saying they should just drop the narrative of the racism, but they should be honest to raise the bigger issue, which is the issue that should be raised, the one that affects everybody, which is that your police departments are being utilized to collect revenue from the citizens that affects poor and middle class people of all colors. This is not a black problem or a white problem. This is a poor problem. Is that they know you don't have the ability to fight this stuff in court. So they're going to keep busting you and keep busting you and keep busting you. And in essence, making almost they're putting people in prison for this. Just like, going into debtor's prison at this point, because not giving enough money to the state, the government.
And what some of the report says is that who they were targeting was poor people, not necessarily that there was some race issue, but that most of the issue is that they were targeting poor people because they were going to be the least likely to be able to have lawyers represent them so that they could, over time, get a lot more money out of probation fees and things like that. So the targeting wasn't necessarily by race, it was by socioeconomic status.
Correct. And that's the more important story here. Because, look, whether we want to admit it or not, there are more poor white people in this country than there are poor black people in this country, only because there are more white people in this country than there are more black people in this country. Population percentages, man. It's not a race thing. It's just, it is what it is, man. It's the makeup of the country is based off of there's so many of this kind of person, there's so many of this kind of person, there's so many of this color person, there's so many of this color person. Just the way If you're Asian, you're pretty small. If you're Indians, we killed most of you, so you're pretty. Offense, Greg. If you're black, there's a lot more of you. If you're Hispanic, that one's growing pretty fast. And if you're white, there's a bunch of white people around, right? So, but it's poor people. That's who they're going after. To mask this thing in racism, I don't think does what they're actually doing any justice. But, and this is where the race pimps come into play, like Al Sharpton and like Jesse Jackson, is that these guys don't want you to have an honest conversation about what the police are actually doing or about police brutality. Because that happened in Ferguson, the other thing the report came out to say is that there's no civil rights violations against what happened in Ferguson with, what's the guy's name? I don't remember his name.
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. Is that there is no civil rights violation. The way that they looked at it was, this guy just robbed a store. He tried to get a gun. Cop shot him. Of course, we don't want anybody to die. I don't want anybody to die. But in that situation, what did you expect the cop to do? I mean, really, what did you expect the cop to do? It's proven that he wasn't holding his hands up saying, don't shoot. That's been proven incorrect. What was proven correct is that there was an incident he robbed something before. He went to, he had a confrontation with this cop. He tried to take the gun from the cop shot him.
Now, I do want
And the guy that shot him, his life's ruined. Don't get me wrong, Michael Brown's dead, so that's definitely worse than what happened to the cop. But the cop was doing his job.
The robbery while talked about largely in the media, was not a part of any of the legal proceedings, because the robbery itself is inconsequential to the series of events between Michael Brown and the police officer. He assaulted a police officer, went for the police officer's weapon, and the shot. Whether he robbed a place or whether he was helping old ladies across the road is inconsequential to what happened right there.
You're absolutely right about that. That is inconsequential to the incident as it took place. But you do have to look at the entire context of what was going on, because it wasn't like Michael Brown was some kind of innocent guy walking down the street.
But in the legal proceedings, it was not admissible, because you can't do that. You can't characterize someone as bad because of an incident that had nothing to do with the incident at hand.
Well, I think why it plays such a large role in the conversation is because people are looking for that, well, why was the cop having this encounter with this individual in the first place? And that robbery justifies the police officer having this encounter with him, whereas if he's just a guy walking down the street and the cop's harassing him, it's a different story.
But they proved that the police officer did not know about the robbery until after the incident with Michael Brown. So he was not looking for a robbery suspect. He didn't know a robbery had happened.
Okay. All right. No, fair enough. No. I'm glad you clarified that part of it, though. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Now, look, since this time frame, there's been riots going on in Ferguson the whole time. A lot of riots going on in Ferguson. And a lot of destruction and damage has been going on to the business owners in Ferguson, mostly African American, to their businesses. Which, again, begs the question of, look, I understand that you have a problem with what goes on. I absolutely share your concern. But don't destroy the other businesses of black people in your community because you have a problem with racism. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if the police department really was racist, then wouldn't they want you to destroy black businesses? So, like, you're kind of doing what they would want to do if you believe that stuff. And there is a lot of instances of police brutality in this country that are going on now, that happened this week, that happened happened in the from when Michael Brown died until now. There's tons of videos, of stories of police brutality. Mm-hmm. This isn't one of them, though. The Michael Brown one isn't one of them. If we're going to be able to engage the general public into a conversation about police brutality, then we have to highlight the instances of actual police brutality. Or what happens is that you get into an argument with the people that are very, very pro-cop and say, there may be police brutality in other places, but this is one of them. Yep, you're right. Let's talk about the ones that have actually happened, so we can actually make it, so we can change it, so we can actually hold the police accountable.
In the police report, they refer to the things that were going on in Ferguson as that the police were almost acting as a military occupier more than a police force. And so when you look through all of it, I mean, they are literally likened to a military occupier in the city instead of a police force. And that is the much more egregious part of what's going on. We can, you can isolate one incident and everybody can argue whether it was police brutality or not. But let's look at the overall picture. What was going on in Ferguson is that the police were harassing citizens. They were harassing poor citizens in an attempt to extort them out of everything they have.
Exactly. But remember, the key word there that Danielle said was poor, not black. That's the key word. It was poor people. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of African Americans in that community. I imagine we're pretty poor. Not because they're African Americans, just because they were poor. And there was a bunch of poor people that lived there. If you went to a place in Oklahoma, there's probably a bunch of poor people living in the town in Oklahoma. But they happen to be white. Just where people live, man. They can't do anything about that part. Is to highlight this to get it to stop. Because it absolutely needs to stop. Is that police brutality needs to stop. But in order to stop this, you have to understand what the real problem is. And I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me or not, but the real problem here is not the police in and of themselves. It's the laws in which they're allowed to enforce.
Yeah.
And you have to take the laws away in order to change. Because you're not going to change people's hearts and minds on this stuff overnight. You're all of a sudden going to make people that are racist not racist. You have to stick a government away from giving them the power to be able to do this. And we have to get back to police departments acting as peace officers and realize work for the community, their rights, and generate revenue.
Every police force around the country needs to start being, and they have different provisions. Like police forces should have community involvement. You should be able to see them in community events, but as peaceful people, being involved in the community, making connections in the community, not occupiers of the community, which is what we do with the military. Police forces is that they come so heavily equipped to something as simple as a parade that they become an occupier of your city instead of someone that's just involved in keeping the community safe as a partnership with the citizens.
Correct. Yep. No, you're absolutely right about that. And it's, look, this is one of the reasons why when we have this discussion, a lot of times we're talking about how if you're poor and you're in these communities and you're seeing what's going on with the police, you have to understand that there's only one philosophy or one party that actually wants to solve the problem. Because, look, you've had Democrats in charge, you've had Republicans in charge. Nothing's getting better. Things are only getting worse. They keep adding laws to it. They're not taking laws away, and it's bipartisan. Look, tyranny is a bipartisan effort supported by both major political parties. Now, they may come down there and placate to you. The Democrats do, or Rand Paul. They may come down there and placate to you, but they don't actually want to solve the problem because they don't actually believe in the core principle that is required to solve the problem. And that core principle is you own your life. I know it's funny. I know it's funny that I just said that.
I'm trying not to laugh.
But is it true?
No, it is. I mean, there's the core principle of you own your life, but I think that while we can say that core principle over and over and over, that means different people. So I there's a core principle of that, you have the right to live as you so choose as long as you're not harming another, which I think goes into more you own your life.
Okay, okay, you're right. Let me say it this way: is that you're free to live your life as you see fit, as long as you do no harm to someone else, as long as you're not infringing on the rights of another, and that the purpose of government is there to protect those rights. It's a weird way I said that, and I know that
and you knew.
I knew, yeah, it was kind of funny. I'm sorry for the inside joke on that one, but if anybody lives down in the Keys, why don't you ask the chair, and he'll be able to explain that one to you. So You're free to live your life as you see fit, as long as you don't do any harm to anybody else, and that the government is there simply to protect those rights of life, liberty, and property,
Right.
and that they are there to do those things. If that is not your core principle, again, I'm not talking about social justice, because that's not what it is.
Right.
Even though you could lump that up into this, but it's no. You're free to do as you wish. I'm doing things, you can do it all you want to. The second you infringe on the rights of somebody else, the government should be there to protect the rights of the person you just infringed on the rights on. So you can't steal, you can't rob, you can't rape, you can't murder, you can't do anything to hurt somebody else.
And I do have to say that once people actually have that freedom and you know get to live that way, those freedoms, those rights also come with responsibilities. Where right now we have a very blurred line between rights and responsibilities. You know, that someone wants to assert their rights when it's actually their responsibility. And so I think that there's these blurred lines, but what we see over, you know, cultures and over time and over many, you know, when you see city between city and their like that when people are given there are, you know, that people get out of the way people, that they automatically take on their responsibilities and do help each other and do work together and do have a safer society, because they do feel that ingrained duty to do that. But once you start pulling away their rights and infringing on that and oppressing them, that they automatically feel this need to rebel, because as human beings, we will do that.
Correct. And again, this ain't a black or a white thing, it's a human thing. The other part about this is that if we are to, and again, a lot of people will go, Alex, that's pie in the sky crap. It's unrealistic to where we're currently at right now, that your libertarianism is just, you know, is great on a piece of paper, but in the application of it, there's no way you can actually apply this stuff. And to that, I would say you're wrong. Because here's the thing. What's the actual solution to the problem? Number one is that police officers, that we remove the laws that are infringing on the rights of, that are victimless crime laws. We remove those laws and we inform the police in your community. You inform your police. Your job is here to protect our rights. And that's what you have to do. And you have to elect people that will make sure that those people that your rights are protected. What you shouldn't be supporting is somebody that placates to you with the promise of some goodie that they're going to have to steal from somebody else to give to you. Because that's who you're electing right now. Stop electing those people. Elect people that understand that the purpose of government is there to protect your rights, not to give you free stuff. Because the free stuff comes with consequences. Namely, that the government needs to create more money, so they need to use you as revenue generators, so you're paying for the goodie anyway.
You're probably paying a lot more for the goodie than if you had just handed it over to the person to begin with.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, that's the first thing. The second thing is to understand that there is big problems in this country. Huge ones. There are racial problems in this country. I would say that they're largely overblown, only because the real problem, as we're talking about with Ferguson, is not a racial problem. It's a government problem of trying to extract money from you. Now the media is lying to you because they're well invested on keeping the division going because they make money off of it. Al Sharpton is well invested in keeping the division going because he makes his money off of it. We don't make our money off of the division, folks. We make our money off of unity. Well, matter of fact, we don't make any money at all. We pay for the show. We pay for the show that you're listening to right now. So we're here to tell you the truth. We're here to give you the actual solution to the problem, not to placate to you. We're here to talk down to you. I'm here to talk directly eye to eye or face to face to you because I believe you are a free, beautiful human that should be allowed to live your life as you see fit, and that whenever the government infringes on your rights, I'm against it. Not because you're black, but because you're human. All right. Let's take a break. We'll finish this conversation up on Ferguson. Maybe there's some Florida stuff that we might want to get to. And we do have a major announcement of some members of the show on something that has recently happened that has been made official, and we'll talk about that then too. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Every
This is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com.
Contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 737 0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network. A website, 1787network.com, 1787network.com. If you want to call the program, 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. There was one part, I got a little bit ranty, got a little bit on a off track here. So there was another part that happened in Ferguson after the police and the judge were resigned.
Police chief, 2 police officers, the city manager, and a municipal judge, and a city clerk.
Yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs. However, they're still rioting there, and after that, 2 police officers were shot. Mm-hmm. And those police officers didn't deserve to be shot.
No, and the people who shot them are still on the loose. There have been no arrests made as of last night.
Yeah, as of last night, there's been no arrests made. And too many people in the crowd, around the country and other crowds too, were cheering these police officers being shot. And that is just about the worst thing that we could do. And those that want to keep the division going are more than happy to stoke those flames. And we should not be stoking those flames. Everybody's lives matter. Not just black people, not just white people, not just cops. Everybody's lives matter. And that we have to stop this that, you can't cheer when 2 police officers get. The cops are seeing they're seeing that they are under attack by the citizens, and they will respond accordingly. And remember, it's always a good idea to not always kind of piss off the guys with the guns.
Yeah.
Because they're going to use them.
When they see that, they see a crowd full of enemies, essentially. Yeah. A crowd full of people who do not care about their well-being and would be happy to see them die. And how do you think they're going to treat you from that point?
Yeah. So don't be happy that the cops got shot, right? That's not a good...
You're contributing to the problem.
Yes, because that makes you, at that point, instead of trying to identify that there is a problem, you are contributing to said problem, literally. So,
and not in the Lindsey Graham literally.
And not in the Lindsey Graham literally kind of way. So for Ferguson, that's pretty much what we wanted to go with on Ferguson. Hard switch to the next thing.
Well, and I can make a better segue than you. You were talking about the divisive. A lot of these officials like to keep. They like to keep the divide. They like to keep the right versus the left, the black versus the white. They like to keep these dividing issues in. But in Tallahassee, we broke down some of the dividing issues on some issues, because this week we had a very interesting lunch. I'm actually, very excited about the lunch that we had, because we met and it was representatives from the Tea Party Network, which is about 86 different Tea Parties across the state, us, the Liberty First Network, the Libertarian Party, because you were there, and we were talking about some of the issues, the League of Women Voters, Integrity Florida, and Common Cause, which is also a very, very left-leaning organization, and some of those same members were also from the Progressive Democrats.
Interesting.
Oh no, it's very interesting, and there's another point that is being. The solar issues has brought this up, and there's other things of being in Tallahassee that have brought this up, but there are a lot more areas of agreements with the grassroots of all the different sides than anybody really thinks, and that those that are in power want anybody to know about. Again, they're vested in keeping the divide.
We were actually there talking the original point of absolute agreement on what we need to do with campaign finance reform. So moving, we joked that, we should take a picture of this group and send it to all the legislators and say, you should be afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we all got together on the issue of campaign finance reform and spoke about that briefly. Everybody was in agreement. So that's going to be, great for the next coming years to have that kind of group put together for that. But while just having lunch and just sitting in conversation, there was many issues of agreement. There were so many things like, education and things like that, where we were all in agreement that what was going on in Tallahassee had to stop, and we were mostly in agreement with what the solutions would be. So you have all of these groups getting together saying, that the officials would like to keep divided. You know what? Letting this divide on issues that we can agree on, because a united front is really what's going to change policy up here.
Yeah. No. And I think that the message that I'm getting, that I'm seeing, I think, that is the good message, and one that lends itself to libertarians, is that many times that the answers that we are coming up with are getting support from all sides.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because we're giving an answer that is getting support from all sides, but there is still this ingrained, inherent distrust of the other side. You know what I mean? Of like left and right. It's not as much where we on that table where we were sitting at.
Right.
That wasn't there.
That was a very friendly table.
But overall,
yes,
everywhere there's that distrust of, well, if a Democrat's doing it, then how can it be the right thing to do? Or on the Democrat side, if a Republican's doing it, how can it be the right thing to do? What we all need to what everybody needs to start understanding is, we need to start listening a lot more to each other. Well, and all y'all should listen a lot more to libertarians, but we should be listening a lot more to each other. And instead of with the preconceived notions of that person is never going to agree with me on anything, that he's diametrically opposed to everything that I support, that there's probably a lot more areas of agreement than you would want than there is.
Well, and that's why, having these lunches with so many of these groups from all different angles was so important, is because we did get to sit down and, at the end, I think, like everybody comes into these things with like it's us versus them. It's right versus left. And yet when we walked out of the lunch, everyone was in agreement that it is us versus them, but it was us, all of our groups, against them, the legislators that weren't listening.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a very good thing. Again, I talked about this earlier, and I want to reiterate it now. Is that there was a person that we had met with when we were up in Tallahassee that was a very hardcore Democrat, but at one point considered himself somewhat of a libertarian-leaning Democrat.
Right.
But saw people like Rand Paul and what they were saying and what they were doing and blaming libertarianism for those actions. So what I would like to say to some of those people is, look, Rand Paul is a Republican politician, not a libertarian. And that if you really want to understand libertarianism or what libertarians stand for, then you might want to talk to libertarians.
Right.
And not believe the media narrative that you're getting on the TV. Again, I'm only telling you what Rand Paul has said, is that Rand Paul said he's a Republican. He didn't say he was a libertarian. As a matter of fact, he said he's not a libertarian. If anything, or some other, if you wanted to give one, he's a paleo progressive, or
I don't know.
I
don't know. What
he's
you're
not a
going for
libertarian,
there.
though. If you want to know where libertarians are at on these issues, then you got to talk to libertarians. And fortunately for the people of Florida, there happens to be a political party in Florida that's called the Libertarian Party of Florida. It's not associated with the Republicans. It's not associated with the Democrats. It's libertarians. So you want to go and talk to them if you want to know what's going on where libertarians. Had a libertarian running for Congress named Lucas Overby.
If you
Here in Pinellas County, did Lucas Overby sound like Rand?
Not at all.
No.
Not even close. You had a governor that was running for Florida by the name of Adrian Wiley. Did he sound like Rand Paul?
No.
Not at all.
You had somebody running for AG by the name of Bill
Walsifer.
Walsifer. Did he sound like Rand Paul? No. You see the common theme here, folks, is that the ones that actually ran libertarian do not sound Rand. Again, I have my own issues with Rand Paul, but I'm saying something that should not cause disagreement with the people that support Rand Paul. He's not a. You want to talk to libertarians? I'm right here. As a matter of fact, you can call me 1-800-525-4032.
I think this is the most you've given out the number in any given show.
Exactly.
But no, so I mean, I think that I actually walked away from that lunch and I was so just kind of happy to see such, that these are groups who would normally not even want to meet together, that not only met and found so many common issues that when we were talking about it, there was no, well, I disagree with you there. It was like, oh, I completely see your point. So it was very nice to see leaders of all these groups around the state that are really coming together on a lot of issues. There are disagreements, and you know what? And we understand that. And that, we'll work through those issues as they come. But right now, everyone agrees that government is too big, and they're too encroaching on our lives, and they're too burdensome on our children. And we can all coalesce together to fix that issue, and then work out the minutia as we go. So I was very kind of like, wow, I have hope for our when I left that lunch, because when all those groups start to get together, what, Tallahassee, you should be afraid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You Tallahassee had the advantage last time of not really having anyone that was up against them for the legislators that were up there, is that 80 of them ran unopposed. I can't imagine you're going to see that again in 2016. And with the way that you have been acting up there as the legislature goes, there's been some good things. It's also been some things that show that there is definitely there's a partisanship there that doesn't care about the solution, that wants to stick with the partisanship. And that if that's the road you're going to continue down, of the partisanship road, that even if a Democrat comes up with a good solution that everybody agrees with, and that you turn that down just because you wanted to turn that down, that's something that you're going to be held accountable for.
Earning opposition.
Yeah. And that whole splitting the vote and the other side's really, really evil, go away too, because they're going to realize that is a talking used to control people on both sides.
I sat in that meeting, and when we were talking about previous elections, it was, I'm sick of this. Oh, well, you have to be afraid of that person because they come up here. They all do the same things. We're all getting screwed. And you know what? I'm not any more afraid of the other party as I am of my own.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And again, it's one of those things where, boy, let libertarians in the room and see how stuff messed up here on our agenda, because again, the solutions that we're bringing forward are libertarian solutions, and you know what? People are listening to them.
Yeah.
And they like them.
And one of the bigger issues, because we did talk about campaign finance reform, which is going to be a huge issue, was like, oh yes, we're completely on board with what you're proposing as the solution. Every single one of those groups. So that was a positive thing that we'll start seeing in the next couple of years. But one of the issues that we all agreed on that was going on right now is Common Core. That was something that we had the Progressive Democrats, we had the Tea Party Network, all sitting there saying that Common Core curriculum is, that the educational materials are inappropriate. The high stakes testing was putting so much pressure on our children and on our teachers that it was that we didn't have education anymore. We had a test, and that we were prepared. We had a year's worth of test prep going on, and that was not education. So this is an issue that it's the Democrats pushing it, it's the Republicans pushing it, it's Jeb Bush pushing it. Well, I can tell you that all of the people hate it. And when all of the people hate it, they're not going to be silent on it, and they haven't been. And so we're already starting to see some things move as far as legislators always like to do the least amount possible to appear like they did something. And we are seeing that now in some of the legislation. We're seeing, well, we've heard you, so we're going to, roll back the high stakes nature of the test to not be as high stakes and, maybe just be, but even at that, people are just voicing so much opposition that even I've had legislators that are very much in support of Common Core tell me Common Core is going to go. It's not an issue of if, it's an issue of when. And we are going to find a lot of opposition to it leaving up here, but the writing's on the wall. There's no way we can keep this and keep our jobs. So we're going to go, but it's going to be destroyed little by little because of so much opposition that you're going to have up here to get rid of it. But it's just we're not going to see huge strides in 1 year, but I can say that on issues, if we keep building these coalitions, we are going to get issues.
Yeah. No. You're right, and it's only the beginning of all of the
Coalition building?
Of the coalition building that's going on. And we're seeing how to do it. And we're seeing the right ways to do it and the wrong ways to do it. So I'm happy of what the future brings. And even more so with the other announcement that we have right now.
Yes.
Look, if you're a libertarian, for years you've known that we've been up against two machines of our own. We have a political party, but that's not necessarily the only feature that you have to have in order to beat these guys, is that it has to be more than that. It has to be more expansive than that. And the one thing that we really felt that we needed was a PAC. And, there's been a lot of, Liberty PACs and other PACs around this country that have not necessarily been for libertarians, especially in Florida, especially in the state of Florida. Well, as of Wednesday?
Thursday?
Wednesday.
No, Wednesday. You're right.
As of Wednesday, that has changed. We have filled out all the paperwork necessary, and it's all set up. We got a bank account for the Florida Libertarian PAC. I am the chairman of the PAC. We are forming a PAC for two specific purposes. Purpose one, identify libertarian candidates that are principled, that are professional, both of them, principled and professional, that are running for office, that want to win so we can help them win. The second one is to identify the libertarian bloc of voters in this country. The libertarian bloc of voters in the state, and ensure that those people get the information for those candidates. That those two things exist, but we need a machine to be able to help those guys out. The machine got started as of Tuesday, or as of Wednesday. The website, cheer up. No. Do you have some kind of clip there where you could do some kind of cheer there, Greg?
I don't think I have. That's like one thing I don't have.
He doesn't have that ready. He wasn't.
But then pick a clip that would be, you can make it funny, literally.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
All right. The website is FloridaLibertarianPact.org, but it's not. Or
But it's not
.com.
up. It's
But
not
it's not
com,
up
but it's
yet.
not up yet.
It will be.
We
We'll
do
give
have
you
the
details on
Facebook
that.
page and some of the social media is up because it just happened Wednesday. We were setting up some of the other structure, and the website will be up soon.
Yeah. Now, if you do want to go to the website or the Facebook page is it's Facebook.com/FLPAC.
Yeah.
I did get that one. So Facebook.com/FLPAC, and you can go there and you like the page, you can share it out. There is a way to be able to donate right now too in the call to action right there. If you click on the little call to action button, you actually can go to the donation and you can make a donation. Our first fundraising goal is $10,000, and I do hope to hit the $10,000 mark in the next 60 days. Hopefully I can get it done even earlier than that. We'll see. But that is the base amount that's needed really to get started. It's really to get started. We really need to raise millions of dollars to have sitting at the ready. So between the months of August and November, that we are able to generate money to run commercials for candidates that are running as libertarians in the state of Florida. And that's what a bulk of the money we're going to try to use is to save up to make sure that we have what we need to run commercials. Now, the way PACs work, just so everybody understands, is if you're a political action committee and you're raising money, you're not communicating with the candidates. So we're going to be working outside of any of the candidates. Right. We're going to be working, as the PAC, we're going to go find candidates that we like that are again, principled, professional, and that they are working to win. We're not looking for paper candidates or people that are running because they wanted to change the conversation. We want people that are willing to do the hard work to have an opportunity to win and to help those people along in that aspect. That's a good way of saying it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, great. Well, then, I'm running for this office and great. Well, how many people do you have working for you? Well, I'm just doing it by myself. Well, okay, great. Well, how are you going out there to get more people to your campaign? Oh, no, I'm not really doing anything like that. I'm more of an education campaign. Okay, thank you for your time. Have a good day. We ain't supporting that guy or girl.
Like, I should candidates because I've heard about you, not because you've reached out for money.
Correct. Make sure that what we're looking for is principled, and again, I'm putting so people understand principled, professional, and they want to win, and that they were willing to do the work necessary in order to win. How do you feel about that, Greg?
I like it.
You like it? Mm-hmm. You're not just saying that because you're standing right next to me, or you're sitting across from me. Right?
You can't reach me.
Oh yeah,
so
right, okay.
I'm not scared.
So that's what's going on, folks. That's the deal. We started the PAC. There'll be more details to that as we are moving forward. But it is something that we have gotten started. I'm really, really happy and excited that we were able to do this. And really, this thing was born from Wiley's campaign. That we saw that we were able to generate money coming in for a candidate, but realized that you need a lot more than that in order to get somebody like Adrian a win. So you have to form something you actually can get money before you actually have a candidate.
Well, and here's the thing: we for the Wiley campaign, we were at about 67 cents a vote. So if you kind of put that out over what you would have needed to win, it was about it was just a little under $2 million. Now you have to understand that there was like almost $200 million on the campaign. So when you could have had a candidate win for about $2 million in a campaign that spent $200 million, it does not take nearly as much money as them to compete. But we do need our own war chest.
Yeah, we got to compete with these guys, which is not a bad thing, though. Again, it is not bad to have to put this thing together. It's a good thing. It's what will get us a victory moving forward. And I'm very happy that we were able to get started with this. I think that because the plan is dual faceted, that the other facet of the plan, which is to identify is a very important part of the plan. You have to identify those people that will be willing to vote Libertarian and let them know that they are not alone. Because we lose a lot of people at the end, feel like that, well, that person doesn't have a chance to win, so I should just vote for this other guy. We have to remove that fear, and it's not going to be easy, by the way, folks. I'm not promising a panacea that's going to happen in 2 years, but this is how it starts, though. You need to start somewhere to get to the point where we have electoral victory at every level of office, whether it's a city council guy that's running, in nonpartisan election, to dog catcher, to whatever. All those things matter at the end of the day. So we have to make sure that we have something that is able to be as nimble as can be. Nimble is key here anyway. And so you have to make sure that we're nimble enough to do it. But I think we are. All right, guys. Well, it's been a great show this week. Is anything else, any other parting shots you guys want?
Literally.
Literally? Is there any parting shots you want?
I am going to take the Lindsey Graham form of literally.
Okay. All right. Danielle has now changed her literally to Lindsey Graham. We got some music going on here, guy? What are we doing? There we go.
Now that's what's considered literal. There was literal playing.
We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.